What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
4VA. Chapter 61 The Beginning of Faith. Belief. A thunder flashed in Balmon's heart. He seemed to grasp something, but couldn't fully comprehend it. Dylan smiled and continued. Back to the point, why did I kill that person just now? Seeing Camilla's still confused look, Dylan turned to look at Balmont. In this chaotic era, if the ruler of a country is full of benevolence and morality, even if it will not perish, the country and its people must be in danger at any time. Fighting the enemy is of course important. But, unity within is equally important, and it can even be said to be the prerequisite for fighting the enemy. This country is so dilapidated that there is no time and conditions to correct those stupid people one by one. Balmont, do you think the people are smart or stupid? After pondering for a while, Balmont said, it should be viewed from a different angle. If it is an agitator, of course they will advocate that the people are smart, such as the Revolutionary Army. If it is a ruler, for example, from the perspective of dragons, it should be stupid, right? Dylan was slightly surprised. This old man is not simple. Yes, in fact, the people are the same as the rulers. There is no difference in essence. But why do many people seem more ignorant, dull, barbaric, and rude? The scenery of his hometown flashed through Balmont's mind. It's education. Balmont blurted out. They have no education. That's right, but education doesn't simply refer to ancient and raw knowledge. Everything that can increase knowledge and be applied to life can be called education. Everything that can build character and establish belief can also be called education. Call it education. Dylan held the stew in his hand and looked at the old and the young. The needs of the people are sometimes simple and scary. They only pray for a full stomach, so we will create such an environment for them. Then, Dylan grabbed the table knife and held it in his hand. Build this environment as a whole, so that you, them, this castle, and this land are connected together. Let them identify with each other. This is just loyalty to the royal family, or for promotion. Getting rich is not enough. They need to fight for what they believe in, for future generations, for this land, for this whole. When they really realize what they are fighting for, they have faith. See Circle Calendar 1512. Leaving East Blue. Well, it's about time. I'm going to pick up something from the Grand Line. And I won't be stationed in East Blue from now on. Dylan patted Camilla on the shoulder. After a period of time, my identity will become sensitive and will attract the attention of many people. In order to ensure your safety, I will not come again until the final goal is achieved. Girona. Protect yourself. I will send someone back to help you, but not myself. I will work with you on the other side of the ocean to change the world. Camilla looked into the distance against the sea breeze, although they had agreed that they would not meet again until that day. But every day Camilla still comes to this tower after dealing with government affairs. Looking in the direction he had left. By the way, Balmont, the world government has invited us several times. When will we respond to them? Next year. For this question, Balmont seems to have expected it a long time ago. We just need to participate in the next World Summit, according to his intention. Before that, other people will come forward. Balmont seemed a little drowsy. People from the CP organization have frequently appeared in East Blue recently. In addition to the Revolutionary Army, I am afraid that some of our actions have also begun to attract their attention. At this time, we must be more cautious. I can understand your eagerness to see him and help him. But the more we get to this point, the more we have to hold our breath. Advertisement. Balmont's eyes seemed to close. Combining the judgment he gave us and the secret investigation results of the past few years, it shows that East Blue is definitely not as peaceful as imagined. The next task is to advance towards the New World. Note that it is not to occupy the territory. Too much territory will become our burden and constraint. Our main goal is to clean up the pirates. Inside the meeting room of G5, key members sit together. Dylan pointed to the area near the calm belt. The first target, the area ruled by the original Whitebeard pirates. Yes. In addition, Dylan picked up Shira, who was next to him, and looked towards the gate. Shiryu. Tom, follow me to collect the bill first. Tahir looks after the house. Tom's expression didn't change much. He just came behind Dylan first, and Shiryu held the handle of Thunderstorm. Empress, I really hope they can resist. Belle, who had not yet left, glanced at Shiryu. You guy, why did you become more and more weird after the war? After the Summit War, Shiryu's body changed a lot. His teeth began to become sharper, and his skin began to change in the direction of jet black. There were also many weird and frightening lines on the exposed skin. If you want to talk about devil fruit, it matches your current appearance very well, ha ha ha. After speaking, Belle, Mel, Ian, and Luo left together, and the O7 combat unit disappeared long after Dylan announced the mission. Shiryu didn't care about Belle Mel's ridicule, but said while following Dylan, I like the current state very much, and I can feel the growth of strength. Dylan. Shiryu looked at the cloak fluttering in front of him. After I complete the awakening, you mentioned, shall I challenge you again? Don't cry. Dylan raised his hand and jumped onto the warship first. Dylan, bang, I have a question. After the warship sailed, Tom sat on the deck and watched Dylan. Isn't that ring able to carry living things? Why do we still have to take a boat every time? Ah, everyone wants to know. Bringing us at your speed will save a lot of time, right? Shiryu turned his head away while wiping away the thunderstorm, something they had discussed privately many times. Dylan twirled the fortified city ring on his finger and shook his head. Vegapunk said that although brute force can't destroy it, the fruit ability cannot be ruled out. The fruit abilities in this world are all kinds of strange things. It just takes more time to take you with you. If you put you in the ring every time and make it a habit, it will become a hidden danger. There is a colonel in the headquarters named Hugh, as you know. Do not know. Do not know. Tisk. Dylan gave the two of them a blank look. Compared with CP0, these two guys are much more boring, not qualified to be a fan. His fruit ability is the rust fruit. All metals will be turned into rust by him. There are also abilities such as regressive fruit, which can restore matter to its original state. Dylan leaned on the ship's side. The ring itself is just a dead thing, and it doesn't have a mind. I usually need to concentrate on using it. If the enemy makes a plan for it, I may not have the time to be able to use it. Get you out of the ring. Once the ring is destroyed, you will most likely be crushed into nothingness. So unless we encounter extremely special circumstances, we don't need to save this time, and this is likely to become one of our means of surprise attacks in the future. Chapter 62. Amazon Lily. Boa Hancock paced the palace anxiously. That demon. Looking in the direction of the sea behind her, she sighed again. Master Luffy. I can only help you here. The attack of G5 is inevitable. If the Dark Dragon sees Lord Luffy here, I'm afraid. Snake Princess, have you decided? Gloriosa came out of the side hall on crutches, her two sisters, and the other warriors. All are fully armed. No matter what decision you make, we will support you, because you are the Emperor of Amazon Lily. Before Boa Hancock could speak, an anxious voice sounded outside the palace. Here it comes. G5's ship has appeared. Everyone's body trembled. Including Boa Hancock himself. The warship stopped in the sea next to Hydra Island. Dylan stood on the bow. Shiryu and Tom stood side by side behind him. Dark Dragon, Dylan, Rain, Shiryu, Wrathful Sea, Tom. Such a lineup. Even if you want to give up Nine Snake Island and escape, I'm afraid you can't do it. What are you doing? Are you ready to fight Lousy? Watching the perfume snake slowly approaching, Dylan narrowed his eyes. Shiryu standing behind Dylan was covered in black mist. Empress, Boa Hancock, I heard that she also has good strength, and according to that stupid woman Belle Mel, she also mastered a magical power. On the beach in the distance, the people of Nine Snakes stood bustling together, waiting for their fate. Thinking of their king's usual style and the man's legend, many of them turned pale. The end of Amazon Lily may be today. Dark Dragon, Vice Admiral. Gloriosa stood beside Boa Hancock and looked at the three people on the opposite bow. Dylan gave her a cold look and interrupted her, then looked at Boa Hancock. UF asterisk 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 G, are you still acting like a king in front of Lousy at this time? Shiryu. Boom. Shiryu spread out a pair of dark fleshy wings on his back, and then jumped up and flew towards the beach. The new power is really good, let's use the Nine Snakes to sharpen the knife. Wait a moment. A trembling voice sounded, and Boa Hancock covered his face with his hands. Wait a moment. When she put down her palm, 2 lines of tears slid down her cheeks. The notoriety of Rain, Shiryu can be said to be frightening among pirates. If he is killed on the beach, I am afraid that a complete body will not be found. Nine Snakes are willing to compensate. HMPH. Compensation. Dylan sneered. At this point, you know how miserable you are. Why didn't you think about today when you sneaked into Impel Down wearing a straw hat? Why didn't you think about today when you attacked pacifists in the war? Where's your Lord Luffy? Did he just leave? Or Rayleigh and Fatty Blue together? You sell miserably, because Lousy's fist is bigger than yours. If someone else came today, wouldn't you want to beat him up again and say shit, no matter what I do I will be forgiven, because the concubine is too beautiful. Lousy said that if you want a head, you need a head. I will give you 10 minutes. Send Lousy the head of the Nine Snake Pirates. If there are not enough. Dylan turned and walked into the cabin. Tom, Shiryu, then you go to the island to get it. To understanding. Shiryu, who was suspended in the air, and Tom, who was still in the bow, responded at the same time. Seeing the man disappear at the door of the cabin, Boa Hancock's body felt weak for a while, and slowly went limp. Advertisement. The vortex ahead is weird. In the storm, Ain held the pointer in one hand and the map in the other. There is no extra mark on the map. It seems that we have encountered extreme weather. Steering the rudder, Belmel also lost his usual laughing expression. This kind of weather is extremely rare even in the New World. Ain shook his head seriously. It may be too late, now I can only choose to raise the sails and try to cross the storm, or ask Vice Admiral for help. Tisk. Belle smacked her lips, and both Ain and Luo looked at her. Maximum power. Get through. Our boats are not that fragile. As the order was issued, the sails of the warship were raised, and several rows of pipes emerged from the stern of the warship. Hurry up. A small boat bounced off a stormy sea with thunder and lightning, then sailed into an unknown fog ahead. It's over. You will definitely be scolded when you go back. Looking at the dilapidated warship, Belmel cursed while drying a cigarette in the sun. What kind of bullshit is this? CP0's bastards don't have any marks at all. Ain marked the information on the map while looking at the calm sea in the distance. Is this the case after passing through the fog? With the power of the wind and waves and the power of the warship, they successfully passed the storm, and then sailed into a fog. After sailing in the mist for nearly half an hour, the whole field of vision suddenly changed, the sky was blue and the sea was calm. This gave everyone a dreamlike illusion. Was the storm outside just now an illusion? But the warship stranded on the beach told them that all this is obviously not an illusion. Where's Luo? Haven't you come back yet? Should someone. A voice without much emotion sounded in the distance, and Luo came out of the woods carrying Ghost Cry. And it's not weak, but it looks a bit weird. Belmel and Ian exchanged glances and then packed their luggage at the same time. Although Luo is not their opponent yet, a guy who can be described as not weak by Luo may not be easy to deal with. What does strange mean? The appearance is still. Luo shook his head. It is undoubtedly a human being, but their behavior and speech style seem to be very strange. This place should have been closed for a long time. As that's so, Belle lit a cigarette and pondered for a while, then looked into the distance, but unfortunately, her knowledge was so ordinary that she couldn't feel the breath of life in the distance. Is there a pirate flag? Or is there any sign of pirate activity around? No. Luo recalled what the city looked like, except for some flags and stone sculptures, he saw nothing to indicate his identity or position. Those flags and stone carvings are not in the shape of skulls that pirates are used to. Since there is no pirate flag, let's wait here and wait for Tahir to send someone to send the ship over, don't bother them. The rogue marines began to find useful things from the dilapidated warship to prepare dinner. Just as the bonfire was rising, there was a sound of neat footsteps coming from the woods. Moan, Autumn Water, and Ghost Cry were unsheathed at the same time. Belmel also raised his head to look at the dark and deep jungle. Where do you come from? A heavy voice sounded from the night, and then, a group of soldiers in armor came out of the dense forest neatly. This is a place of isolation. Chapter 63 The Death Knell of the New Era. Marineford. 3 weeks have passed since the war. The stronghold destroyed by Whitebeard is being rebuilt intensively. Most of the Marines who were called to the headquarters also left. Headquarters Vice Admiral, Admiral, Marshal were called to Red Line, Mariajoy, to discuss the inauguration of the next Marshal. On the square of Marineford, countless people and reporters who came to pay their respects frequently came and went. It was destroyed like this. Marineford. But Marine still won. Didn't the man known as the strongest in the world also die here? Who knows, the broadcast was stopped for so long. I heard that Marines' methods are not honorable. Boom. Gunfire. What? There was a burst of exclamation. Enemy attack. The Marine on the outer shore suddenly announced loudly through a loudspeaker. The attackers are Straw Hat Boy, Seaman, Jinbei and Pluton, Shilbaz Rayleigh. No attack. They snatched a warship. Shelled them. Reporters from the periphery flocked to take pictures of the robbed warship. Big event. What are they doing around Marineford? Idiot. This is the water funeral. Are you so bold? Just when the reporters were wondering, the robbed warship approached the west side of the square. That's the Oak's clock. Straw Hat Luffy, what is he doing? Clang, clang, clang. 16 consecutive heavy bells rang through the sky. Is it the bell to welcome the new year? Now, it's not the new year. Idiot. This is announcing the end of the old era. Straw Hat. This guy. Just as the sun god took off his straw hat and was about to present flowers, a cold voice sounded in the distance. Good knock. Boom. A thunderbolt fell, flowers scattered all over the ground, and the straw hat was directly stepped on the ground by Dylan. Rayleigh's pupils on the shore shrank. When Dylan put the scabbard against the head of the straw hat, stepped on his body with his right foot, and said to the surrounding reporters, send this scene to Lousy and send it to the world. The straw hat rings, the death knell of the new era. Brother Luffy. Not far away, Jinbei's heart skipped a beat when he saw the straw hat being stepped on by Dylan. That's right, that guy is an ability user. The words of sea water. Ocean current, 7,000 tile roundhouse kick. The ocean current had just been condensed by Jinbei, and with a roar, a brown figure appeared on Jinbei's flank. Boom. Jinbei, who had no time to defend, was kicked by Tom and flew to the wall. You. Poof. A mouthful of blood spewed out, and Jinbei's eyes revealed a solemn look. This guy is stronger. Rayleigh drew his sword and leaned forward slowly. Dark Dragon. Don't. Dylan stared. If you say no, you don't want it. You say no, Lousy wants it. During the speech, the armed color on Dylan's feet became more intense, and the old injury on the back of the straw hat broke out, and there was a scream. Wow. Advertisement. Anger flashed in Rayleigh's eyes. Let go of Luffy. Otherwise. What else? Are you F***********G sinking Marineford? While speaking, Dylan glanced at the reporters who were frantically snapping pictures around. The effect is almost. Helios, let's go. Seeing the look in Dylan's eyes, Rayleigh appeared next to him in an instant with a movement of his body. You will cause big trouble. Ding. The two weapons were intersecting, and Dylan continued to exert force on his feet while blocking Rayleigh's saber. Old man. The straw hat under his feet has lost consciousness and fainted, and blood is leaching along the bandage. Rayleigh's head was sweating, the strength of this young man. I can't manage that much anymore. The conquerors, with black lightning attached, wound up towards Rayleigh's saber. Dylan grinned. Are you serious? Jane, Shiryu, who was rushing up in the sky, looked terrified. After following Dylan for the past few years, he has somewhat understood Dylan's habits. Generally, if he just showed a very bored look towards the pirate would hurry up and run away, most likely he would still be alive. When he draws his sword, he's ready to get serious. But, if he starts to say some weird one-liners, it means his killing intent is unstoppable. The dark and dark red conquerors also wound up along Shira, and the two knives that were attached to each other began to slowly separate. Rayleigh looked at Dylan with a gloomy face. If this continues, Marineford may not be able to sustain it. Marine, there are still so many wounded soldiers and civilians here. Really, can you make it this far? You threatened Lousy. Dylan gritted his teeth and looked up to the sky. Shiryu. Warning. Go to Sabayati Archipelago and kill his concubine. Go to Twin Gorges and kill Cu Carlos. Others, Lousy will find out one by one and send you all on your way. Seeing Dylan's ferocious look and his order, Rayleigh's face changed drastically. Shaki. Who Carlos? Don't take it too far, Marine. Excessive. There are even more excessive than this. Dylan's eyes flashed fiercely. Order G5 to arrest Octopus Shauba, the former swordsman of the Arlong pirates, as long as he dies. Didn't you allow anyone to bully him? Lousy will not only kill him now, but also use him as an octopus rice bowl. The powerhouses of the old and new eras all burst into outrage because of their respective positions. The vigorous conqueror's collision stunned the civilians and reporters present. Do you think only pirates can threaten others? This trick will not work against Lousy. Rayleigh, who has been calm and gentle all year round, also has a red light in his eyes, and it is bound to be difficult today. I never expected that things would evolve to this point. Luffy, it's me. What the hell are you? Ringing the bell while nobody's at Marineford. Dylan held Shira's handle with both hands and slowly pressed forward. Come on, just end here. Rayleigh, who is already in his 70s, started to shake his hands. This guy. No, can't just stop it. The aura on Dylan's body overwhelmingly pressed towards Rayleigh, and Shiryu in the air could not even maintain a suspended state. Leave Luffy alone. This time. After a soft sigh, a voice sounded in Dylan's mind. Not yet. Dylan's expression froze, but Shira showed no tendency to stop. Who are you? Dylan didn't express this sentence with his voice, but asked directly in his heart. Don't you already know? It's you, M. The voice sounded again. It's me. This sad world needs you, but it also needs Luffy. This time, let him leave, even if it is. Hearing the latter half of the sentence, Dylan finally showed a look of shock in his eyes. Then he smiled disdainfully. Sure enough. It's ironic. We are sorry for him, so. Dylan looked at the straw hat with his eyes turned white under his feet, waited left and right, and then showed a ruthless look again. Okay. But old Rayleigh is not in this deal. His only answer was a sigh. Dylan kicked the straw hat away, and then looked up at Rayleigh. Come on. One Piece's right wrist. Let Lousy see. Can you help me, old ghost? The pirate once again builds up his confidence. Luffy Rayleigh, who was kicked out by Dylan, breathed a sigh of relief, but then a strong sense of crisis came to his heart. The conquerors attached to the knife exploded, and both bodies bounced back together. A line of blood streaked across, and the distant sea was directly divided into two pieces. Conviction Kunlun. Chapter 64 The Legacy of the 20 Kings. Straw Hat Luffy was severely injured by Dark Dragon, Vice Admiral in Marineford to pay homage to Fire Fist, Ace, and Pluton. Rayleigh had his right arm chopped off. Death knell for a new age. Quote. The toughest Marine in history appears. Quote. The strongest Marine Vice Admiral, Dark Dragon, Dylan. Quote. Samble. It seems that Roger's crew finally couldn't help but pop up one by one. After all, it was Rayleigh's appointed successor to Roger's will. The moment Dylan cut off Rayleigh's right arm, a soaring wave swept Rayleigh, Straw Hat and Jinbei away. According to the deduction of CP0 and the headquarters, the one who shot should be the former member of the Roger Pirates, the Murloc Sambel. Although Tom immediately pursued into the deep sea, they still escaped. G5 Branch. Leo, the captain of the 07 combat unit, stood on the table and looked at Dylan. When we arrived at Sabayati Archipelago, there was no one in Shaki's rip-off bar. According to news from the branch of the Chia Kingdom, Carlos of the Twin Gorges has also disappeared. It seems that the members of the Roger Pirates still maintain contact. In addition, the swordsman of the original Arlong Pirates, Octopus Hachi also disappeared, and should have been taken away by Shaki. After listening to Leo's report, Dylan crossed his legs and said, forget it, that woman Shaki is an intelligence dealer. It's normal for you to be behind. But next, once you find their whereabouts, let me know immediately. Clear. Dylan looked at the people involved in the meeting. What about Bell and Mel? Why haven't they come back for so long? We're going to report this. Tahir took out several life cards and put them on the conference table. The life cards were still intact, without any signs of burning or shrinking. Because Shiryu and Tom have followed you out, and G5 must have someone to stay behind, so we have to wait for you to come back to make a decision. The phone bug can't contact you. Tahir shook his head. Dylan looked at the life card on the table. Although there was no overall change, the activity frequency of the life card was much lower than normal. Is there anything else that can block the guidance of the life card? Tahir shook his head again. I'm also very curious about this point. Even though, or even far away in the world, the life card will not be disturbed, but Well, Dylan tapped his fingers on the table for a while and said to the participants, I'll go find it, and you guys will proceed as planned. Yes. After walking out of the meeting room, CP0 was holding a teacup on the sofa in the outer hall. Collect information on the Roger pirate remnants, and Dylan threw Belmel's chart of their voyage's goals on the table. Why did they lose contact on this route? CP0 picked up the map in silence and looked at it, then said, the gray area is judged as unknown, this should have been explained earlier. Dylan glared at him. Is it there or not? After putting down the teacup in his hand, CP0 buzzed. It should be. That's no. Now I seriously doubt what the world government supports you for. Can you do anything besides eating and drinking around? Looking at the tea that had just been brewed and not yet taken a sip, CP0 stood up silently. Advertisement. Tell me about you. You are useless if you are given a chance. You let Yamato eat the big mouthful of true god fruit, and let a dog eat the big entrance fruit. You still want to be promoted. You still want me miss you. Bah. Facing Dylan's heavy punch, CP0 picked up a box from the side of the table and opened it, and there was a devil fruit lying in it. Quote. Don't use smile to fool lousy, right? This is the devil fruit I found in Wanokuni. According to the illustration comparison, it should be the Maruko fruit you mentioned earlier. Understood. Dylan snatched the fruit of the meatball and threw it into the ring, still leaving. Waiting for dinner. CP0, who originally wanted to get some information from Dylan, looked at Dylan's face and remembered some recent turmoil and suppressed his anger. And one more thing. Before Dylan glared at him, CP0 spoke quickly and said, it was originally planned that Moonlight Moria would be stripped of the title of Seven Warlords of the Sea, and executed after the Summit War ended, but he escaped. Our clue, he should have escaped to the New World. If you meet him, can you? We'll talk about it when we meet. Dylan walked out of the base, took out Bell and Mel's life card and observed it. The life card flutters towards a certain place every few tens of seconds. Joey Bowie. What is it? A wonderful man, but too naive. Beside the huge bonfire, Bell, Ian, Luo, several old men, and several strong men sat together. Bellmeyer collected his thoughts and looked at the old man opposite. So, your ancestors neither supported the so-called Joey Boy, nor supported the 20 Kings Alliance. Are you a third-party force? The old man fiddled with the bonfire and said, a third party. Maybe, but there is still a big gap between our overall strength and theirs. After all, Joey Boy leads the strong men of all races, and the 20 Kings. Quote. I heard that they formed a world government after they won. Well, this is also one of the two major sorrows in this world right now. Your so-called 20 kings, their descendants should be living in the holy place on the red line now, Mariajoy's world nobility, celestial dragons. Red line. The old man seemed to recall something after muttering for a while, but then his face recovered. From your words, it can be inferred that there are still many people in the marine you are in who still have justice, even for the style of the celestial dragons, very resistant. Have you ever wondered why after 800 years, there must be a large number of strong people in this sea, and why no one can overthrow them? Whether it's pirates, marines, or the so-called revolutionary army. Why can't anyone do it? From a certain point of view, wouldn't it be better if you marines can unify your thinking, overthrow the world government, with thunderous momentum, and pay off the pirates to rebuild the order? Although this idea is exaggerated, it's impossible that no one has thought about it for hundreds of years. As the old man spoke, the three of Bell and Mel fell into deep thought. Indeed so. There are countless people in Marine who are resistant to celestial dragons. Why hasn't someone raised their arms to do this? The celestial dragons. The old man shook his head regretfully. When we chose to leave back then, the other two parties regarded us as a hidden danger. Although Joey Boy's people did not do anything, he voluntarily withdrew from the army and let the 20 Wang Lianjin come after us. A lot of important information was lost on the way to exile. What is certain now is that the descendants of the 20 kings must have some kind of destructive power in their hands. This is what the 20 kings left them, the greatest wealth and security for descendants. What about you? Belma looked at the burly people around him. The aura exuding from them is like a beast. We have lost too much strength. After hundreds of years of self-cultivation, we barely have the situation we have today. Maybe it's time. The old man's face flickered under the reflection of the flames. It's time to go back to the sea. But before that, we have to see him. Who is he? Your leader. He's here. Chapter 65 Third Parties. It's really hard work, even the hard net can be blocked. A figure fell from the sky. Dylan glanced at the three of Bell and Mel and the rogue marine, who was having a carnival in the distance, and then sat down. I seem to have heard that you want to see me just now. The old man didn't answer Dylan's words right away, but just looked at him and smiled. Is it the hard net? Dylan frowned and turned to look at Ain. After receiving Dylan's signal, Ain restated the information he had obtained before. You don't seem surprised by the information. The old man was a little puzzled, but the young man didn't show much surprise or solemn expression after listening. Some of the information in it, how to put it, anyone with a brain can figure it out. Even your so-called destructive power, Marine should have someone who clearly knows what it is. So. Dylan glanced around. These things are nothing new. Bell next to me took a puff of a cigarette. She never thought about these things. In and Luo acted as if nothing had happened. The old man nodded slowly. I heard some stories about you from them. How about it? Do you need our strength? Hearing this, Luo and Ain were a little surprised. But Dylan didn't give an answer, but looked at the old man. I need strength, and your strength is fine, but I don't need any strength. The physique and breath of life of these guys are indeed very good, and they are also very disciplined. Even in this isolated archipelago, they still remain vigilant. Could it be that you are also following some kind of agreement? Are you waiting for someone to save you? Promise. The old man shook his head. No, this is the main reason why our ancestors and Joey Boy parted ways. Oh, the old man looked directly at Dylan, and said in a deep voice, the sporadic records left by our ancestors once said that although Joey Boye is a benevolent leader, he is not a qualified leader. Peace is definitely not based on laughter and happiness. Can bring, especially between races. The disparity in natural strength, the estrangement of living habits, and the ambition of conspirators, none of these can be resolved by holding a banquet. I don't know much about what happened at the last moment of that war, but through some conversations and analysis just now. Joey Boye, as the ancestors described, what self-sacrifice he chose at the last moment or, waiting for the dawn, or something. This kind of thing is exactly what we hate. Nika, he tried to lead the oppressed people to break the old evil, but gave up at the last moment. The old man shook his head. Compromise and time can't buy peace. Stupid banquets can't maintain long-term peace. Legal principles are the benchmark for peacekeeping. Flames burst out of the old man's eyes, the legal principle of equal treatment. After listening to the old man's words, Dylan clapped his hands. It's interesting, but it's almost interesting. How about it? Dylan glanced around. Go and see the outside world first, and then make a decision. A young warrior followed Dylan out of the archipelago called Balchico. Do you have any racial traits or anything? Like some weird tattoo on your back? In the mist, a small warship sailed slowly. Alex, a young soldier from Balchico, shook his head. No, why is there such a thing? Who knows? Some people have it anyway. If the people here are indeed, as they themselves said, the third-party forces, back then, they are probably also included in the world government records. Now is not a good time to rebel. That old man, well, his name is Mr. Ephraim, he is our guide. Guide, don't you have a royal family there? Alex shook his head. It is said that before entering Balchico, there was no such thing as a royal family, in our country, specifically me. So smart. The parliamentary system was realized 800 years ago. Still is. As the ship moved out of the fog, the outer eddies had subsided, but the storm was still terrifying. Tisk. Advertisement. Hearing the roar of thunder in the sky, Dylan looked up. After a while of turbulence, the clouds gradually began to subside. Okay. The thunderclouds that had just calmed down gathered together immediately after Dylan passed by. Looking at the clouds behind him, Dylan frowned. No wonder this kind of place is classified as an unknown area by CP0. Sure enough, it was full of weirdness. The other side of the New World Sea area. An island occupied by the former Whitebeard pirates. Boom. The pirate flag erected on the island was cut off in half. Looking at the pirate flag that fell on the ground, the eyes of the people lit up a little, but then dimmed again. So what? These pirates died today, and new pirates will come tomorrow. My lord, are you Marine? The man who looked like a ghost actually got off the warship with the words G5 printed on it. Although he didn't do anything to the people, his cruel method of slaughtering the pirates shocked the people who were quietly watching from a distance. Ah, it should be counted. What's wrong? Shiryu replied nonchalantly while wiping the blood from the blade of thunderstorm. Gu. The person who came forward to ask the question swallowed his saliva and said, Can I borrow your flag to help us deter pirates? When G5's ship approached the island, the pirates who were drinking and eating meat suddenly started to run away like crazy. Those with boats sailed, and those without boats found a plank and started jumping into the sea. Some people even plunged into the sea directly. It should be the very powerful and famous Marine. Do not. Shiryu shook his head. My task is to clean the pirates. The look in the middle-aged eyes became even more gray. How long can a stable life last? Seeing Shiryu leave, the middle-aged man looked at the rogue Marine on the other side. Although these people do not look like good people, but when he made his request again, the Marine showed a struggling look on his face. He is just Shiryu Rear Admiral's lieutenant, the lieutenant of the O4 combat unit. He doesn't have that much power to directly use the flag of G5. But the people here, thinking of the food and supplies sent to them by those poor people just now, the adjutant gritted his teeth. Good. When he returned to the warship, the adjutant's legs were already shaking. Everyone in the G5 branch knows that in the base, apart from Belmel Rear Admiral who dared to talk back to Dylan Vice Admiral, only Miss Ayu and Princess Mancherly could act coquettishly in front of Vice Admiral. Others, almost all follow the iron law to carry out the order. As Shiryu's adjutant, he certainly knows the current strategy. Only cleaning pirates, not occupying territory. This is an order from Dylan Vice Admiral himself. On the warship, Shiryu was sitting on a chair on the deck, biting a cigar and looking at the trembling adjutant. Tie it up and throw it into a prison. Just when the adjutant was desperate, Shiryu turned and walked towards the cabin. Go back. Shiryu Rear Admiral. The adjutant had tears in his eyes. He did not take back the flag of G5, this guilt. He carried it for himself. Chapter 66. Violation of military order. Yes, he planted the G5 flag on that island, but I didn't take it back. Dylan leaned on the sofa with his hands folded on his chest, looking at the adjutant who was tied to the ground and Shiryu who was standing aside waiting to meet the wrath. Okay. After thinking for a while, Dylan raised his eyes. The G504 combat unit violated the military order. Everyone will be deducted 1 year's military pay, and everyone's rank will be lowered by 1 level. Set off immediately and kill 100 pirates with bounties before returning to the team. Get out. The adjutant on the ground breathed a sigh of relief. Dylan Vice Admiral no order to withdraw the flag. That's great. After the members of Unit 04 left, the others were silent, and Dylan was still leaning on the sofa and meditating. Although some islands were occupied before, they were still within the controllable range. And they are all near the G5 branch. It cannot be regarded as occupation in name, but setting up outposts. Both Motobu and Mariajoy turned a blind eye to this. But Dylan is well aware that when some things are taken too far, there will be problems. The territory is too large for G5 to take care of both. Once someone with a heart destroys the island sheltered by G5, no matter whether G5 pays back its blood debt or not, it will deal a blow to G5's prestige. Furthermore, those islands are all territories of non-affiliated countries, or they simply don't care about the area. According to the laws of the world government, Marine does not need to provide protection for them. If you expand your territory with great fanfare, and these territories cannot become franchise countries, if you don't pay the heavenly gold, that would be a huge hidden danger. Belle could not bear it first and was about to speak, but Tom, who was sitting opposite her, shook his head slightly to stop her. Map. As the map slowly unfolded, Dylan's hand slowly groped on the map, as if looking for something. Others showed puzzled looks, but no one spoke. Here. Dylan pointed to an area to the west of de Rees Rosa marked, Kingdom of Alcino. Intelligence. Tahir glanced at it and said, the Kingdom of Alcino, the former member country of the world government, lost its status as a member country in Marine Asylum 6 years ago. The capital was destroyed by pirates, and the royal blood was cut off. Now it is a lawless place. Quote. The royal bloodline is severed. Dylan rubbed between his brows. Use the power of the East Blue. No, that would be too abrupt, and it's not time to expose it yet. Drum Island. Neither can. Royal family. After thinking for a while, Dylan raised his head and glanced at Manchueli. Tom, escort Manchueli to Greenbit, and invite King Goncho to G5 for discussion. Although it is a little hasty now, but it is also a good time to test the attitudes of world government and various races. When Gon Chao arrived at G5, he was accompanied by hundreds of soldiers of the Dongtata tribe. Dylan looked at them with a slightly strange look on their faces. Advertisement. Why does it feel different from before? Gon Chao looked a little serious. In the past hundreds of years, we have been waiting for the day when the promise will be fulfilled, and we have followed our nature. But this has brought us too much misfortune and sorrow. In these 10 years, we started to find our own path. In the face of injustice and discrimination, fighting is the only way out. Isn't it, Dylan Vice Admiral? The hundreds of soldiers behind them all looked solemn and disciplined. Apparently they too have overcome the innocence of their racial nature with great perseverance. In these years, they took turns following Leo to fight and witness the world. This made us more determined in our choice. Get ready to migrate. A new, green bit, is about to be born. At the same time get ready, to join the world government. As you wish. Migration of the little people. Doflamingo's face darkened. Although I don't know why G5 didn't target the Don Quixote pirates before and after the war, but if all the little people were directly relocated, it would be tantamount to cutting off this road completely, and those lowly slaves are actually going to build a country. That's right, Dover. The G5 fleet has already set off, led by Tom the Raging Sea. What about the factory? After sniffing his nose, Torrebel said with some concern, it's not optimistic. The quantity that can be delivered to Kaido after removing the defective products is very small. Kaido is already very dissatisfied. And he also cut our arms supply. Doflamingo crossed his fingers and braced his chin, then thought for a while and said, use the power of the Red Heart to let him collect the positions of other small people. Or, make a deal with Big Mom, we can't continue to procrastinate. New. After Torrebel left, Doflamingo suddenly laughed sarcastically, let the slaves join the world government. Dark Dragon, you really dare to think about it. Bark bark. Let Lousy see your ambition and artifice. Alabasta. Neferutari Cobra fell into deep thought while reading the news on the World Economic News. With the support of the Marine G5 branch, the Dung Ta Ta Kingdom of the Lilliputians announced that it would move to the land of no man, Alcino, and establish the Green Bit Kingdom. And their king also stated that after settling down, they will restore their national strength as soon as possible, and then join the world government. After the Summit War, everyone knew about the existence of the G507 combat unit. Although it is not certain whether this move is led by the Dark Dragon, there must be his power behind it. What is the purpose? All politically sensitive people are secretly discussing this major change. These traitors. It's a disgrace to the little people. Not only forgot the promise, but also broke the promise. After the Dragon Palace Kingdom has another foreign race joined the world government. What role did the Dark Dragon play in this? Is it Marine's temptation? After the word got out, Wanokuni, Al-Bav was full of discussions and suspicions everywhere. Toto land. Well, Dark Dragon, would you be a little too impatient? Perospero asked while licking the candy. Mom, do you mean, is this his plan? Does he also want to establish the nation of 10,000 nations? Who knows? Well, but, this is a very dangerous signal. Are the little people rich? Can they afford the heavenly gold? Katakuri sat in the distance and said in a deep voice, with the G5, no. With the financial power of the Dark Dragon, it is easy to pay the heavenly gold. There is a strange rumor among pirates, if you can defeat the Dark Dragon and get his wealth. There is no need to look for One Piece or something. Chapter 67 Crazy Pool Manager. Ain, do you still have contact with Zephyr? Yes. Although it has been several years since he entered G5, Ain is still the type who doesn't talk much. The swordsman seemed to speak very little. Dylan tapped on the table. Did Binz eat devil fruit? Probably not. Please wait a moment, let me confirm. Well, the meticulous Ian immediately picked up the phone bug and dialed Zephyr's number. Oh, Ain. Zephyr looks a little older than before. But after seeing the image of Ain, he still showed a look of joy. Although Ain followed him for a short time, within Marine, Ain can be considered a strong man. After all, he practiced that man's swordsmanship, Broken Moon, Ian. Although Ian is not at the top of the ranking of G5 internal officers, but as a new generation of Marine, he is also among the best. Mr. Zephyr, Vice Admiral asked me to ask you if Binz ate devil fruit. Huh, Binz. Zephyr was slightly taken aback, showing a puzzled look. After the capacity user attack, he hated devil fruit's abilities. Even if he really sees the devil fruit, he would choose to hand it over to the headquarters. No. How could there be such a problem all of a sudden? Ian turned to look at Dylan, and Dylan took the microphone. Zephyr, it's me. Dylan, Binz didn't get the ability, what's the problem? As the only two surviving students in the capable person attack incident, Ain recommended it to Dylan, while Binz received his full teaching. It's a pity. Binz's talent is really limited. This kid Dylan has really good eyesight, not only discovering Tom, Raging Sea, Tahir, Sky Fox, and Belmel, who were originally mediocre characters. Even at that time, he noticed Ian who was still a recruit at a glance. I see. Binz is now a major, right? Congratulations Zephyr. It's still far away, kid. But with you in Marine, I can retire with peace of mind. After chatting for a few minutes and hanging up, Dylan dialed the gray phone bug, look for a fruit. What kind of growing fruit? You can check the illustrated book for the specific shape. If you find it, plus what happened before, I'll tell you about the location of the Revolutionary Army headquarters. CP0 stationed at Derice Rosa was shaken. In the past few years, their role in Dylan has become less and less. In addition to Marine's inclination to him with a lot of resources and authority, he himself seems to have many additional intelligence channels. This time we must seize the opportunity. After hanging up on CP0, Dylan began to think about the next step. Although the small humans have extremely powerful means of cultivating plants, but if they are paired with luxuriant fruits, they will definitely be able to go to a higher level. After all, let people drag their families and move to a strange place. In addition to the protection of safety, there is still some extra compensation. Order 07 troops to patrol and clean the periphery of New Greenbit. Tom's main task is to guard the interior. Call the nearby refugees to participate in the construction, and absorb a few talents to join the Greenbit nationality. Outer buildings. Wait for me a bit. The phone bug turned into a riffraff with dark glasses. Hey, it's really strange, Dark Dragon, isn't it afraid that the higher-ups will suspect you if you make such a big move? Quote. Dylan stared at the phone bug without speaking, and Doflamingo on the other end paused. Advertisement. Tell me, what's the matter? Do you need me to help you find the lush fruit? If you ask, I will help. HMPH. Dylan snorted coldly. This guy's hands were really long, even the CP0 organization penetrated into it. But this obvious trick of killing with a knife didn't work for him. Lend me your stone man for a few days. Pika, what are you using it for? What can you do? Go to Alcino to fix Lousy's house. Why, don't you want to borrow it? Even across the phone bug, Doflamingo felt a pang of discomfort. If you don't borrow it, this guy will come to pick it up in person. The current Derice Rosa can't stand his toss. How long? Pika is my important family member and cadre. After leaning his body forward a little, Dylan smiled. You have to ask him this question. If he works hard, maybe he can get it done in 3 to 5 days. If he cheats, he will give Lousy a lifetime of bricks. Understood. I will arrange for Pika to go there. Please inform that Murloc, so as not to cause misunderstanding. Are you teaching me how to do things? Quote. After confirming that Dylan had hung up, Doflamingo slammed the microphone from his hand. This B************ D is really infuriating. But thinking of the guy's strength made Doflamingo irritated again. Powerful, famous, and all of his subordinates are monsters who shined in the Summit War. As a new generation of Marine's strongest Vice Admiral, he has the power to attract everyone's attention, and he also controls massive wealth. Although there are rumors in the sea that this guy is entangled with some mysterious forces, and even has a deal with Big Mom, but so what? This didn't affect his status in the slightest. After the Summit War, this guy's popularity reached its peak in both pirates and marine. One is fear, the other is worship. G5. Dylan was flipping through books in the office, and Ayu approached the window furtively. Hey, ninja, starfish shuriken. A dry starfish flew over from behind Dylan, and Dylan dodged it with a slight movement of his body. The female ninja of the enemy. Then I have to attack. Ninja lightning style Kilin. A group of thunder light that was so weak that it was almost extinguished appeared in Dylan's hand. Surrender. Surrender. Ayu jumped behind Dylan and wrapped his arms around his neck. How about it, our female ninja, have you been studying hard and exercising recently? Yes, brother Tahir is a very good teacher. Dylan rubbed her head and took out snacks from the drawer. Really? Then I'll test you. Ayu jumped to the ground, chewed some snacks, and with her hips on her hips, she replied vaguely. Come on, ninjas are not afraid of trials and challenges. Dylan touched his nose and smiled mysteriously. For a swimming pool, turn on the water injection pipe for 15 hours to fill it up, open the drain pipe for 20 hours to empty it, and after opening it for 7 hours, the administrator feels bored, and finds another one that can fill up with water in 13 hours. The pipe was put into the water tank, but when I threw it down with too much force, I made a hole that can leak out the water in 40 hours. How many hours can it be filled? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. The female ninja was stunned for a moment, and the half-chewed snacks fell to the ground. After a long silence, she asked tremblingly, Can you repeat the topic? Quote. Ha 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 ha. Dylan laughed out loud. It seems that no matter which world a child is in, he will fear the crazy pool manager from the bottom of his soul. Chapter 68. After Ayu left Dylan's office, Belmel walked in with a cigarette in his mouth. Dylan, who started to flip through the books again, ignored her. These guys, apart from going to the conference room or living room during regular meetings, they like to drill into his office at other times. Hey, Dylan, I said. Dylan closed the book again and looked at the hesitant Belmel. What's wrong? He hesitated, and got into trouble again. Tisk, I said, can you think of me in a better way? Belmel continued after giving Dylan a blank look. How old are you this year? Are you in your 30s? 31, what's the matter? Although he has reached 31, under the tempering of thunder and lightning, his appearance still maintains the appearance of 25 or 6-year-old. Bellmeyer hesitated for a moment before saying, Ayu is a very good child, but, haven't you thought about leaving your own blood? Although Dylan often disappears, they all know that Dylan is going to do his own thing, or go to practice. This promising man has almost reached the top of the world. Why is there not even a woman around? Although IN is taciturn, Belmel, who is also a woman, can be sure that IN has no room for other people in his heart. As Dylan's first companion, Belmel sincerely hopes that Dylan can have his own family and blood. Not yet. Dylan rubbed the book cover and looked at Belmel. He liked her sisters from the bottom of his heart. Nami, Nokigo, Camilla, Ayu. These children are deeply loved by her. But now, have you forgotten what that old man in Balchico said? Dylan lit a cigarette, took a deep breath and exhaled a thick puff of smoke. The world is far from that simple. Belmel, why didn't I kill the redhead in West Blue, and we couldn't wipe out the Pirate Alliance in Summit War? Even, why can't I kill Straw Hat Luffy? Do you think I don't want to? Looking at the huge map on the wall of the office, Dylan shook his head. To realize our ideal cannot be accomplished simply by relying on brute force or unscrupulous bravery. There must be many things that are not satisfactory. Our goal is not to become a bomb, blow up the world to pieces, and then disappear together. If we want to realize a more noble ideal, we must know the balance. A ball of thunder flashed on Dylan's hand, and there was a harsh friction sound in the air. Now the whole world says that our strength is already very strong, and it may even be comparable to Marineford. What do you think? Impossible. Belmel immediately denied it. Vice Admiral Garp, Sengoku Chief Inspector, Zephyr Chief Instructor, Marshal Sakazuki, Pelusalino Admiral, and the newly added Fujitora, Green Bull, Crane Vice Admiral, Gion, Cake, and the elite Vice Admirals of this department. If these forces break out, you and I don't know, but the rest of us will definitely die. That's right, but such a powerful Marine can only maintain order and barely collapse. What if other people come in to disrupt the situation? Dylan's eyes flicked across the map. The Revolutionary Army, other races, the older generation of pirates who have retired and their strength has not completely declined, and the real power in the hands of the celestial dragons. We need to take advantage of this position, stand on this position, and use it to solve some of the troubles on the surface. During this period, no, it is before realizing the ideal, I can't leave a hole for myself. Flaw. Bell was taken aback for a moment, and then felt a little sad. He worry too much, bear too much. Look at Garp. Dylan shook his head. What did he do? Although I don't know if he made any agreement with others back then, there is no doubt that the dragon and the straw had greatly interfered with his position and decision. Quote. After saying this, Dylan stared at Belmel, and said word by word. If one day, Belmel, if one day, the enemy threatens me with your life, I will not compromise. Just like I told them, I will use double, 10 times, 100 times the number of heads pay homage to you, but I will not compromise. Hearing Dylan's words, Belmel didn't mean to be disappointed or angry, but nodded firmly. Advertisement. This is what we want too. Dylan, this is you too. You are the one worth following. Dylan shook his head and sighed. I have never been a husband, a father. I don't know what kind of feelings it contains, but I am very afraid. If I do have a wife and children, the enemy will take their lives if you threaten me, can I be ruthless? So, until that day comes, I will not leave an opening for the enemy. Even if I disappear into this world, I have never let anyone down. My child should not have been born in this damn era. Kuzan, who left Marine, took his penguin, carried his small luggage, and rode his bicycle to start traveling around the world. Somewhere in East Blue, in an ordinary fishing village. Would you like to try to contact him? Sir, seems to have a good opinion of him. No, his position is hesitant, and he is not our choice. Moreover, his identity is too sensitive and high profile. Contacting him now will only cause fire. What about the CP0 organization and the Revolutionary Army? Both parties seem to have noticed something, but both suspected that the other party was setting up a trap. Instead, we successfully erased some traces. Don't underestimate the enemy, and according to the order from above, start collecting information on the former members of the Roger Pirates. Once you find any clues, report them immediately. Yes. G5 branch. Kuzan and Dylan sit face to face. This guy, come to eat and drink again. Kuzan slumped down on the sofa after putting his small bag aside. Ah, I'm just passing by, and I'm planning to go for a stroll in the deep sea later. In the deep sea, Dylan frowned. Although he didn't know why this guy chose to partner with Teach in the end, he probably didn't feel at ease. Isn't the one who killed Blackbeard a cripple? Wait, here Kuzan didn't become crippled because of Lousy's relationship, isn't the script messed up? Dylan brushed maliciously across Kuzan's legs. Which one is better to interrupt? What's the matter? UB***********D, are you thinking of something bad? Huh, why did Pelusolino and Sakazuki have their legs up that day and you didn't? Are your legs bad? What? After teasing for a while, Dylan's expression became serious. Tell me, Kuzan, what's the matter? That day, at the last moment of the Summit War, Dylan launched Da Luo Tianyu, alone. But with the exception of Sakazuki and a few vice admirals, the other high-end combat powers have chosen to sit on the sidelines due to various positions and beliefs. If there were not all but Sakazuki at that time, only 2 more people shot, and he would not be hit by the red hair's slash. Even at the last moment, if everyone can kill together. It's a pity. Many things are not completely as I wish. Wait a little longer. Wait for my own person to be stronger. Wait until I find that guy. My situation will not be so embarrassing. Don't explain anything about this, Kuzan. Dylan shook his head. Everyone has different ideas, and the justice they uphold is also different. Although those guys were finally let go because of your position and hesitation, I believe that, no matter what, if I had been fatally injured, you would definitely have shot. From a friend's point of view, that's enough. I will not impose my beliefs on others. Chapter 69 Relocation Plan. But I still have a little problem. Dylan frowned. About Nico Robin. Hearing this, Kuzan's expression finally changed. After escaping from O'Hara, Nico Robin has frequently moved among gangsters, robbers, and pirates, being betrayed or betraying others every day. Before the Enies Lobby incident, Kuzan even decided to kill her himself. At that time, he thought that Saul's idea was wrong. Although the sea is so vast, Nico Robin has not found a shelter for so many years. Then the mistakes he made should be corrected by himself. Destroying Enies Lobby, destroying Impel Down, intervening in Summit War, and breaking into Marineford with Rayleigh before, the Straw Hat is no longer a pirate who he himself called chasing freedom and adventure. As a member of his crew, if Nico Robin can't change his position, I won't keep my hand. What about your stepsister? The navigator named Nami. After hesitating for a while, Kuzan finally asked this sentence. Back then, he ran back to East Blue specifically, and the whole Marine knew his love and care for Belle Mel's adopted daughter all these years. Everyone still has a little time. Dylan pulled out a newspaper from the drawer, which was the headline of the previous World Economic News. The straw hat was stepped on by Dylan, flowers were scattered all over the ground, and the words 3D2Y were written on the arm of the straw hat. 2 years, find her, lock her up, break her leg, or kill her yourself. If I see her still appearing on the Straw Hat's boat 2 years later, it will be regarded as a thief. Dylan reached out and nodded the newspaper. After a year, if you think you want to find her but can't find her, you can ask me and I will tell you her location. About this woman, I can only back down so far. Nami is the same. I will find her sometime. If I can't convince her, I will lock her up and let her see whether the world is changed by marine or by the sea. Thief change. I see. After pondering for a while, Kuzan shook his head. I will not go to her. From the day O'Hara escaped, I told her to live cautiously. I am not his companion. Her journey should be done by she decides for herself. It better be true, Kuzan. Dylan leaned forward and looked him straight in the eyes. I don't want to fight you. After all, you are one of the few friends I have. After making a decision, Kuzan returned to his lazy look, and his body collapsed again. Probably not. After all, you and Sakazuki are still different. I hope. By the way, anyway, if you are wandering around New World, if you meet Moria and his transparent fruit guy, kill me. Ah, the battle or something. Hey, even if you leave Marine, don't act badly. Kuzan. Kuzan picked up his small backpack, stood up and walked towards the door. I know. Really, 1 or 2, even though first have left Marine, they still refuse to let me go. Quote. Dylan frowned slightly as Kuzan's voice faded away. What do you mean by this? What information did you reveal to yourself? However, according to Kuzan's character, he shouldn't be cooperating with Teach as an undercover agent. It seems that there are other reasons for this. With the perfection of Alcino Kingdom, more and more eyes of the world began to gather here. Many forces also began to try to infiltrate it, but they were all blocked by CP0. You can arrange some people on the periphery, this is my frankness to Mariajoy, but other messy guys, you are responsible for cleaning me up, can you do it? A little. If you can't do it, your people are not allowed to get close, or let me catch people from the CP organization, and it will be your head. I will apply. As long as the personnel is not very complicated, we will be responsible for screening, but once the population increases. Although the relocation of the Dong Tata Kingdom has not yet been completed, the world government has acquiesced in his joining. Even the flag of world government was erected on the unfinished King capital. Of course, it is not the flag of the world government that deters the pirates. On the port flank of the capital, one side is the bright resident of the CP organization, and the other side. It is a branch of the G5 base. Office of Marshal Marineford. Justice in the King's Landing has become absolute justice. Move. Akainu bit his cigar and looked at Dylan. Why do you suddenly have such an idea? Advertisement. Advance to the depths of New World. Aren't you also planning to switch the headquarters in G1? That's true. It seems that we have thought of it together, but the position of G5 is also very special, and it cannot be easily vacated. Akainu looked at Dylan, who was shaking his legs. After the Summit War, he acquiesced that Dylan was a general of his own line, and the original Hawk faction generals became much closer to Dylan. Do you have any suggestions? Or, garrison one of your rear admirals. Just like you back then. 8 years ago, Dylan served as the head of the G5 branch with the rank of rear admiral. If it weren't for Heavenly Yaksha, Doflamingo, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, that area would have become a restricted area for pirates. Although the rear admirals under Dylan may not be as strong as him, they are definitely better than the average vice admiral. No, Sakazuki, my people all have missions to perform, so let's get someone else. My new base is hundreds of kilometers away, and anyone can go there. Smoker's rookie is not bad either. In this case. Call. Akainu puffed out a puff of smoke. Let Hina go, you're right around, so there's no need to waste too much upper-level combat power by the side. Black Threshold. Hina, it doesn't matter, as he himself said, his new base is not far away, even if the old base is empty, no one would dare to look for trouble. Hina seems to be from Granny He's side. Hina is willing. As a Marine, of course you should go to a more dangerous place. In the office, Hina stood on the side of the desk with a serious look. Dylan looked up. I'm not happy if you say that. Hina doesn't mean that. What Hina means is that being able to go to the front end of the new world to fight crime is what I have always hoped for. I see, but where I am, although there are no miscellaneous fish coming, maybe someday there will be big pirates coming to the door, and you are right to say that it is dangerous. Understood. In addition, before receiving the transfer order, someone entrusted Hina to apply for the transfer order. Sakazuki took off the cigar. Who? Hina straightened her body. It's Smoker's Major Tashigi. She said she wants to study in G5 for a while, but because she is not high enough, she can't directly contact the Marshal and Dylan, she just met outside, so she entrusts me to apply together. Quote. Looking for you. Akainu was noncommittal, he didn't care about such trivial matters. Tashigi. Call her in. Reporting from headquarters Major Tashigi. Although the four-eyed girl walked into Akainu's office, although she was a little uneasy, she still completed the military salute meticulously. Akainu leaned back on the chair and did not answer, but raised his chin to signal Dylan to decide for himself. Reason. This time, Dylan was not as polite as in the previous meeting, but straight to the point. After all, if you want to join him, you must get used to obeying orders. I want to go to New World and fight pirates. The reason. Dylan pondered for a moment. Seeing Dylan lost in thought, Tashigi's mouth tightened. After a while, she finally couldn't help but ask loudly, did Vice Admiral think I'm too weak? Weak and small. Dylan woke up from his contemplation, then shook his head. There is no such thing as saying, we have all come from weak and small step by step. Now that you have made up your mind, go to the new G5 to report by yourself. Oh right, you went to G5, what did Smoker say? Although Akainu is a very pure soldier and doesn't pay much attention to faction disputes, but Smoker. The situation may not be any better, after all, Kuzan ran away with a bucket. Humph. Akainu, who hadn't spoken until now, snorted coldly. That B************, D, he said that he needs to hone his fighting skills, and he has already asked for a long vacation. How stupid. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites shared the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 70 Swordsman's Intuition. Middle of New World. It's almost there. According to the remaining supplies, we should return. Looking at the pile of reward orders on the ground, Belle felt a little helpless. It's really strange, why do these guys bring their own reward orders when they go out? Luo was treating the wounded at the side while talking nonchalantly. Is this a kind of honor, or a symbol of strength, for them? PFF'd. The fainted wounded man woke up and glanced at the people around him. You are Marine. Huh, that's right, what's wrong? Save my family. They are in the Soviet kingdom not far ahead. Please. Belmo looked at the guy who had just woken up and was still very sluggish, and looked up at Ain again. Ain opened the map and observed. Sovia, it's not far, but. I beg you. Hearing what Ain said, the man rolled from the simple stretcher to the ground with a plop, and kowtowed. My daughter was taken away by pirates. I was blown here by the wind and waves. I don't know. There were muddy tears on the man's face. I don't know how long it's been. Anyway, please. Hearing the word, daughter, Belle's heart tightened. Seeing her expression, Luo and Ain started to pack their things. Soviet Kingdom. Ain reconfirmed the information. It is not the area occupied by 4 emperors, nor is it the red danger area, noted in CP0. Set sail, take turns to rest, and if you want to replenish, let's take it from the pirates. Soviet Kingdom, a secluded fishing village and small port. This place has been deserted for a long time, and those pirates didn't send anyone to monitor it. Although the wound on his body hadn't healed, the man named Bart still gritted his teeth and walked ahead. After learning the date from the mouth of the marine, he realized that 4 full days had passed since his fishing boat was bombarded by pirates. Y. Wait for me. Daddy's coming to save you soon. In, who was walking in the middle of the line, suddenly paused. Huh, what's the matter, Ain? Belle next to me was a little curious. Although Ian usually didn't show much emotion, at this moment, her face was full of doubts and caution. I don't know, but I always have some bad premonition. Luo, who was walking at the forefront, also frowned, and then shook his head. I didn't feel any special aura. Anyway, cheer up, In said to the team behind in a deep voice. This is the intuition of the swordsman. After the team quietly detoured along the narrow and steep mountain road for an hour, a medium-sized palace appeared in everyone's view. Belle didn't rush to give the order, but looked at Ian and Luo on the left and right respectively. The results obtained are completely opposite. Ain still looked serious, and nodded. Luo frowned and shook his head again. Among the 3 of them, Luo's sense of knowledge is the most powerful. This kind of weird situation is the first time I have encountered it. The usual carefree Belmo turned to the fisherman Bart and said, you wait for us here. No, I want to. Madness. Belmel whispered. What are you going to do? To die, or do you want us to send someone to protect you? After muttering for a while, Bart finally nodded. Then I will wait here. My daughter is called Y, when she was taken away wearing a starfish printed dress. Understood. Act. Bellmeyer gave an order, and the people of G5 began to touch the back of the palace along the winding path. Room. Laugh. A few pirates who were standing guard on the wall were brought to the ground by Luo, and they were instantly dealt with by Ain on the side. It seems. Boom. Bang bang. 2 gunshots pierced the sky instantly. It's Marine. Get rid of them. Luo's expression changed, and he glanced at the gap in the wall. It's a surveillance phone bug. I was careless. Go directly. Break through head on. Bellmeyer gave a loud shout, and immediately covered with armed color. Oh, advertisement. Sensing the commotion in the palace, Belmo glanced at the G5 soldiers behind him. Go in and fight in close quarters. The rogue Marines, who heard the order instantly liberated their instincts, showing ferocious smiles one by one. Get in. Get rid of the pirates. I want to chop 10. As everyone unsheathed their weapons, Belmo turned his head and glanced at Luo. Get rid of the guy who shot on the wall. After nodding his head, the room space enlarged again, and Luo's figure appeared on the wall in a flash. Follow me. Oh, when he rushed to the edge of the gate, Ain pulled out autumn water, and a slash erupted instantly. Crack. Boom. The huge iron gate shattered into pieces. Whoa. Kill in. In and Bellmeyer rushed to the front, the rogue marine stuck closely behind, and hundreds of people shuttled back and forth in the corridor of the palace like a sharp sword. Change formation. Keep your strength. Looking at the densely packed pirates in the promenade, Bellmeyer gave a loud shout. These bastards are fighting more and more crazily. Although under the high-intensity training and high-quality food supply of G5, their physical fitness has far surpassed that of ordinary people, but this way of fighting. Received. Change formation. The adjutant of the O1 combat unit raised his right hand and changed his gesture. Circle. Combat alternately. After receiving the order, the rogue marines immediately gathered together, and those with good physical strength and no wounds took the initiative to stand outside. People who are injured or physically exhausted come to the inner circle to start recovering their physical strength and do simple bandaging for themselves. Ain. I'll grab someone to ask for directions. The moment the swords collided, Belmel pulled 2 dry-looking pirates from the pirates in front of him and retreated to the inner circle. Where's your captain? Holding the neck of the pirate with both hands, Bell turned to look at the pirate on the left. In. The pirate looked terrified, but something seemed to overshadow the imminent death. Click. The pirate's neck snapped. Bell threw the body to the ground and looked at the other one. Where? Before. Turn right in front, turn left at the end. Click. The pirate died with a look of surprise. It seems to be asking. I have answered everything, why do you want to kill me? And the figure that had returned to the front of the line seemed to be responding to him with his fists. I didn't say that if you answered, I wouldn't kill you. Bellmeyer jumped to the front of Ain and killed 3 pirates in an instant. Seeing the pirates still rushing towards the end of the passage, Bellmeyer turned around and nodded. Ian. Their long-term partners have made them have a tacit understanding. The moment Bell received the signal, In held the handle of Chu Shui across his chest with both hands. Condemn the crime and break the delusion. The dense crescent-shaped slashes erupted instantly, and the pirates in front fell down like weeds. Recover your strength. As the pirate in front fell to the ground, Ian took a breath and returned to the center of the formation. R.O. Luo, who was shuttling through the gaps in the battlefield, heard Bell Mel's voice and came to her instantly. They retreated. It seems to have entered a defensive posture. No. It seems to be guarding something. Send the wounded out first. Luo raised his finger. Baton. Marine, who was more seriously injured, disappeared instantly. Belmel glanced back, and there were about 70 people who could participate in the battle. I don't know what they are waiting for, but we also want to make a quick decision. Clean it up and break through them in 2 minutes. No one responded, and everyone took the opportunity to tidy up or start drinking water. When they came to the passage into the side door of the palace hall, a pirate took a look at them. Yes, it's the G5 guy. The other pirates were taken aback, showing hesitation and panic. Is it under the command of that devil? But wait for the captain to wake up. No matter what, otherwise we will still die. The black pirates filled the last passage leading to the palace like ants. This is the middle of New World. These guys are not weak. Quite a few people also have armament hockey. Who the hell occupies this place? In from the back of the formation stepped forward. Her breathing was already steady, but her expression became more serious. Quickly solve it. My anxiety is getting stronger and stronger. Something was about to wake up. Chapter 71 The Mad Woman. It is good. Belmel let out a low snort, and was about to rush forward. In grabbed her shoulder and shook his head. Me and Luo have exhausted a lot of physical strength. You must maintain your condition, here. All come. Seeing Ain walk out of the formation, the pirates on the opposite side swallowed. That guy is Broken Moon, Ain. There was a commotion among the pirates, but it subsided quickly. Although he was puzzled, but as the uneasiness in his heart became more and more intense, In held his breath and calmed down for a while, then raised Chushui. Call. The flowing hockey wrapped around Chushui's knife, and Ain's muscles tensed. This move, with her current strength, she still can't fully grasp it. Conviction Nahi Bridge. Wow. Wave after wave of detailed slashing attacks instantly flooded the corridor ahead. The pirate in front felt a gust of wind blowing, and his body was slightly itchy, while the pirate behind felt a burst of water stains rushing towards his face. Current. Wrong. Is blood. The precise slashes penetrated the bodies of the pirates. Even if some of them were protected by weapons, their bodies began to ooze blood under the continuous attack. The door at the end of the corridor began to tear open, making a creaking sound of breaking. In gritted his teeth and poured all the remaining power into Chushui's blade. Drink it. Boom. Hundreds of pirates fell to the ground at the same time as the gate behind them. A pirate who was not yet dead, bathed in blood, looked at the G501 combat troops passing by them. You, also. Puff. Guiku's scabbard directly shattered his neck bone, but Luo looked a little puzzled. Is this guy crazy? How could you show that weird smile? The entire hall was filled with the smell of alcohol, and a group of shivering women curled up in the corner, holding back their tears. On the other side, a group of seemingly young girls were trapped in a bunch of cages. After just scanning around, Bell Meyer's eyebrows were raised. On the throne above, a man with scars all over his body was lying on the thighs of several women. Higher. Told Lousy to keep quiet when he sleeps. Those women who carried him with their bodies tightly covered their mouths, not daring to make a sound. Disturbed Lousy's sweet dreams. A burst of gray mist rose from the throne, and the bodies of the women sitting in a row froze, and then their bodies withered like plants that had been scorched by fire. While rubbing his forehead, the man raised his body and looked at the crowd below. Marine. Bell's heart skipped a beat the moment he saw the man's face. UB*********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************œuvre Then, right. The women on the throne turned into ashes and scattered, and the bald man who seemed to be hungover shook his head vigorously. The kingdom of Oiko. Where is it? Belle didn't answer his question again. Although she didn't face the man in front of her directly back then, this look can't be wrong. Fanny. A trembling voice sounded from the corner of the hall. Trembling, the fisherman Bart took his daughter out of the cage. The girl named F*******Y hung her arms weakly, and could no longer hear her father's call. F*******Y. Wake up. F*******Y. Dad is here to find you. Dad has prepared your favorite cod soup for you. Looking at the fisherman Bart who was on the verge of collapse in the corner, everyone present held their weapons tightly. Really? Twitter, 1 or 2, it's so noisy. Call. A wave of light yellow air swept towards the corner. R.O. Baton. The women and children in the corners on both sides disappeared in an instant, and Belmel covered armament hockey with his arms to resist the yellow energy. H.O. Ability user. The air wave subsided, and the man finally stood up from the throne. He didn't seem to care that his ability was blocked, and he was still thinking hard. Where is the kingdom of Oiko? Boom. Bell's heels appeared on the flanks of his head, and the man raised his arms casually. Where is it? Belmel in midair had a serious look on his face, and he spun around in the air, the armed colors on his heels becoming more intense. Tempest kick Joe Duan. Woo. A dull crackling sound pierced the air. Advertisement. Boom. The man's eyes lit up. I remembered, it must have been almost 20 years. I really miss the days of East Blue. Then he grabbed Belmel's calf. Were you there at the time? Didn't Marines all get killed? Belmel snorted, this guy's strength and armed color. I finally drank a good drink. Really, since you were the fish that slipped through the net back then. Then you, die bar. Hey, beep. A strong air wave erupted, and then the man swung Bel's body and smashed it to the ground. Scalpel, no life. The man grinned. Black knife. Boom. Belmel was smashed into the ground by him, while the man leapt high and dodged the slashing attacks of Luo and Ain. Are all Marines this powerful now? He was somewhat surprised that none of the Marines below fainted from the Conqueror's impact just now. This level of Conquerors. Among the rubble on the ground, Belmel, who was covered in armed colors, stood up again. It's no longer useful to us. Swish. Bel's figure flashed above his head, and his right foot was lifted high again. Boom. I really don't have a long memory. Your frail body and the strength of your armed color are simply ridiculous. The bald head raised his arms above his head, but then he realized something was wrong. Not a simple collision of forces, in this hockey. Contains a strange power. Internal sabotage. No, it's a more complex change. Collapse. The bald-headed arm trembled, and the stones under his feet shattered and splashed. After shaking his arm to dispel the pain on it, the bald head raised his head and looked at Belmel. What kind of power is this? It's so novel. Both Luo and Ain in the hall showed more serious expressions. This move is said to be able to break through the continent of ice. And this guy. It's just a little discomfort in the arm. Forget it. Although there are some tricks, but that's it. Can't you do it? Before Bel could finish thinking, the bald head flickered in front of him in an instant. Bad. After raising his arms subconsciously, a huge force hit, and then Bel felt a burning pain in his arms. Boom. On the other side of the palace, Belmeyer, who was sent flying by a turning kick, was submerged in rubble. The moment Bel flew out, the bodies of Ain and Luo disappeared at the same time. Sweat dripped from the forehead of Ain, who was moving. I have been fighting for 2 days in a row before. My physical strength. Weakness. Where? Can't find it at all. It's up to you, Luo. Conviction Manjusawa. Blood-red sword energy erupted, wrapping towards the bald head. The bald head was stunned for a moment. The petals had already formed a wrapping trend. Just when he raised his arms and crossed them, Luo had already come behind him. Heart. Brat. A turned and elbow hit Luo directly in the face. It's too small to underestimate Lousy. Looking back, the petals were completely wrapped, but then they were crushed by a burst of black air waves. After the air wave shattered the petals, it swept towards Ain, who was almost out of strength in the distance. Ain's body trembled. This distance. ZZ. Call. An equally strong wave of air swept from behind Ain, blocking the impact that was about to pounce on Ain. Ho. Conquerors. Marine. Woman. How about Marine, and how about women? The bald-headed expression gradually became serious. That woman. I remembered. It was overdone at the time, and there was a lot of noise. You were that crazy woman who has been fighting desperately. For so many years. It's changed a lot. Chapter 72. Do you still need moves to hit you? Belmel walked forward slowly from behind. Destroying a country has caused countless disasters and tragedies. In your eyes, is it just fun? More and more powerful aura erupted, and the disaster of the Oiko kingdom is still vivid in my mind. Those colleagues and subordinates who died in battle, those people who moaned and howled in the flames of war. The sad memories and anger that had been buried in my heart for decades broke out completely. In the air waves, Bel's hair was flying. Celestial dragons are certainly hateful, but you pirates, you deserve death. The bald head's expression turned cold. This sentence seemed to touch some sore spot in him. Women, don't think that owning conquerors is a big deal. You are far behind. Boom. The air wave on the throne rose instantly, suppressing the air wave below in an instant. Belmeyer immediately went up to him after a muffled grunt. I know, but, facing the pirates. I have no reason to retreat. The momentum rose again, and the surrounding furniture and windows began to shatter under the collision of the two people's air waves. Hot-blooded. Fearless. A place like East Blue. It's really full of monsters, but, that's it. As the bald body slowly moved forward, the corner of Belmel's mouth began to overflow with blood. Slightly. Even though he couldn't tell whether the blood came from the internal organs or the jaws, Bel still clenched his teeth tightly and didn't take half a step back. When Belmeyer's consciousness was almost blurred, she seemed to hear a familiar voice. Since we know that East Blue is rich in monsters, why don't we just put our tails together and behave like a human being after escaping from East Blue? Dylan. After confirming the voice, Belmel's nerves relaxed, and his body slowly sank down. After handing Belmel to Ain, Dylan turned and looked at the bald head. A strong man may be bald, but a bald man may not be a strong man. Hiss. With a flash of thunder, Dylan appeared in front of the bald head. Then the pupils shrank, and a burst of conquerors mixed with lightning and scarlet breath erupted instantly. Puff. Bald's throat tightened, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. Your conquerors, just average. Then the bald head saw a figure hanging upside down in the air. At the moment of life and death, the bald head raised his arms. The moment the black heels touched his crossed arms, there was a crackling sound. Click. Bald took a breath. The same moves as that woman, but with strength and skill. Boom. The bald body sank into the ground, and the boulder floor of the entire hall instantly cracked like a dried-up pond. The bald head, whose arms were already numb, was lying in a depression under the ground, coughing up blood and looking at Dylan. This move, what is it? A move. Dylan walked up to him and looked down at his shiny head. Advertisement. You still need to use moves to beat someone like you. In astonishment and unwillingness, the life breath of the bald head disappeared. G5 warships. Luo, with a bandage on his head, and Ain, weak, sat on the edge of the bed. Dylan sat on the other side with his feet up. Lying on the hospital bed, Bellmeyer panted lightly and looked at the cabin roof. Dylan. I lost again. Well, so what? Don't you blame me. Dylan folded his arms and looked at Belmel, then at Luo and Ian next to him. Did you guys get something wrong? We are Marines, not pirates. There is nothing that can never be lost, and you can never lose this kind of nonsense. Won't I lose? If I really can't, I'll fly to Toto Land to have a good time now, then fly to Wano-Kuni to have a good time, and finally fly to Whitebeard, the strongest in the world, lost to time and Marine in the end. Dylan frowned and looked at the three people with gloomy expressions. Anyone will lose, as long as they don't lose their lives and fighting spirit, even if they lose 1,000 times or 10,000 times. Those who can stand up and continue fighting are not losers. Quote. Don't listen to those nonsense, you can't lose once, and you have never lost. Who in this world has never lost? Even the God has changed several times. Under the astonished eyes of the three people, Dylan waved his hands. Pretend you haven't heard this before. Seeing their puzzled looks, Dylan glanced at them. You are not strong enough now, knowing this is not a good thing for you. After a moment of silence, Dylan looked at them again. You have to remember that it is not terrible or shameful to experience failure. It is valuable to find a breakthrough direction from pain. You each have opportunities and potentials. This time after you go back, you don't have to go on missions for a period of time, and you have to think about your own direction. Don't play poorly with a good hand. Right, smoker. After Luo and Ian went out, Dylan looked at Belmel, who was still a little dazed. I was the first subordinate you selected, but I feel more and more the gap between myself and Tom, Shiryu, and Tahir. Even Ain and Luo. I'm afraid I won't be able to use it. How long will it take to surpass me? Dylan, will I be a burden to you? Dylan opened the window, pulled out a cigarette and tossed one to Belmel before lighting another for himself. When you really start thinking that way, your power starts to wane, or even disappear. After taking a deep breath, Dylan stared at the somewhat confused Bell. The world is so vast, there is never a shortage of talented people, but very few can make it to the end. Why is that? Because no one is immune to failure, but most people lose themselves in power or power. After experiencing one or two failures, they begin to doubt themselves and even abandon their hearts. From that moment on, you lose your qualifications to be strong. Crying, sadness, helplessness, and anger are unavoidable for anyone. After experiencing these, it is the rarest thing to regain confidence. Belmel, who was lying on the bed, smiled. What about you, Dylan, have you ever had one? Me, looking out the window at the calm sea and the seabirds soaring, Dylan smiled. Of course I will too. When I was a teenager, I longed for blood, longed for adventure, and hated the bondage and nagging of my family. But when I really came into this world, I realized how cruel and ruthless it is. My family's merchant ship was sunk by pirate bombardment, and I barely survived with a piece of wood, relying on rainwater and wild fruits to satisfy my hunger. My young body is not enough to support me to live alone, working for others everywhere, being deceived, trafficked, and enslaved. When I woke up, I was almost out of shape. I began to realize that this world is not so beautiful. No one is waiting for me in front of me. No one will be infected by my smile and help me unconditionally. On the way of wandering, I have to think about how to survive, grab wild fruits with monkeys, and avoid slave traders. After joining the Marine, no matter how hard or heavy the task is, I can't show a trace of cowardice outside. I can only hide, get up, and secretly wipe your tears. Because I am the only one in this world. It's been more than 20 years. I really want to see them again. Mom and Dad. Chapter 73 G5 Fortress. The moment Dylan slaughtered the bald head, lives were burning in the hands of different people around the world. Luke is dead. In a certain mountain in East Blue, a burly figure sat in the shadows and looked at the phone bug opposite. What's going on? He said that the days of waiting were too boring, and he wanted to go out to have some fun, and met the subordinates of the Dark Dragon. The man in the shadow was silent for a while and then stared at the phone bug. When you wanted to recruit him, I told you that he was not suitable to join us. He was arrogant, but he didn't have the strength to match him. His destruction of the Oiko Kingdom almost exposed us in East Blue. If we hadn't notified him in time to flee to the Grand Line, in the Kingdom of Oiko, he would have been killed by the Garp who drove there. But you insisted on taking him in, and even gave him the withered fruit. Have you forgotten the duties of guide and guardian? The phone bug on the opposite side fell silent, and the person in the shadow seemed unwilling to say anything else. Let everyone near G5 lie dormant, and no one is allowed to act without authorization until he passes by. Understood. G5 warships. Belmel looked at Dylan's eyes looking out to the sea, and felt as if he had been hit hard in the chest. Although her life was unsatisfactory since she was a child, she is a well-known bad girl in the village, but that kind of helpless wandering life. Well, these are things in the past. Dylan stood up and smiled at Belle-Mel. Don't be discouraged, the power is always in the human body. From a specific point of view, you are currently the person in the G5 branch with the highest potential limit besides me. Remember the anger at that moment and the persistence at that moment. This is the most important step for you to reach a new level. After walking out of the cabin, both Ian and Luo sat on the edge of the deck in a daze. Seeing Dylan come out, both of them turned to look at him. Question mark. What are you doing? Are your hearts shaken too? After the two looked at each other, Luo finally spoke. The strength of that person. Strength. Dylan rubbed his chin. If I have to describe it, probably Shichibukai's mid to upper level, it should be similar to Doflamingo and Boa Hancock. But definitely much better than your previous opponents. In the Summit War, their main target of battle is still the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates and the captains under his flag. Dylan once commented on the first 7 warlords of the sea. Mahawk is alone in the first gear, and Doflamingo, Boa Hancock, and Jinbei are in the second gear. Clock Dar and Gecko Moria, who lost their Heart of the Strong, are at the end. As for the bear, it is dissociated between the first and second gears. Later, Dylan also explained that this ranking is only based on the combat effectiveness they have shown so far. But it cannot be generalized. For example, in the sea, other people may not be able to beat the fathead fish together. When playing control, Doflamingo and Moria are far ahead of the others. As for clearing miscellaneous soldiers, it is the K-lock of the Logia fruit that is the most efficient. As for the bears, at that time, Dylan's evaluation was that his ability was too startling, and he was forced to delete his account. Although they couldn't fully understand what startling and delete number meant, they could vaguely guess. We still have some problems with the connection of combat power. Advertisement. After a pause, Dylan said, Tom, to hear, Shiryu, any of them are sure to kill Shichibukai and those guys, you have to work hard. To exercise, to fight, to summarize, to imagine. I believe that in the near future. No. After experiencing this setback, I believe that you will soon find your own directions and roads. You can always ask me and others at the base for advice. Don't be depressed, don't hesitate. The world is waiting for us to change together. After walking out of Balchico, Alex followed Tom to the old land of Alcino Kingdom. Tom has no additional restrictions on his freedom. In New Green Bit, he can go anywhere freely. Everyone in the base was also curious about this young man who suddenly appeared, and maintained a certain degree of awe. After all, he is a guy who can occasionally attend the officer meeting. The adjutants of each combat unit can only participate after being called. Although the senior officials did not clarify his position and military rank, Vice Admiral rarely talked to him, and he himself did not wear the G5 uniform. But it was such a mysterious person that caused many speculations. Even CP0 noticed him. Do not mind him. Their team leader, the CP0 who has worked with Dylan for several years, waved his hand to stop his subordinates from reporting. That guy, he has some kind of magical vision, he can always find guys with great potential in some obscure places, don't do it for no reason. The person who provoked him. The subordinate hesitated for a moment, then nodded and left. But CP0 himself is still worrying about the luxury fruit. The world is so big, where to find such a fruit? In the palace of Mariajoy. 5 elders looked at the paperwork being handed in. It is an agreement for the Dong Tata Kingdom to officially join the world government, and there is also a warrant for the relocation of the G5 branch. The 5 elders wearing a hat asked in a deep voice, with the national strength of the little people, do you really want to give them the qualifications to participate in the World Summit? No. It's not just little people. 5 elders, who was sitting on the side wiping his long knife, said while looking at his saber. This is a signal of our victory, foreign race, the inside is disintegrating. But Adams Dylan's move is going to be over the line. What does it matter? 5 elders with a birthmark on his forehead leaned on the sofa. Even if he really has the heart of a king, after the end of history, we can grant him a territory. If he has the intention to rebel, after seeing the real power, he will know how to choose. After the listless Pika left on the ship of the Don Quixote pirates, Dylan looked at the neat and orderly buildings in the capital. What kind of pirate would you be if you have the strength? Wouldn't it be good to build a house for someone? You can become a rich man if you just do it for a few years. The G5 base, which has been relocated, stands on the left wing of the former Alcino and the current Greenbit. The base is built on a huge and steep cliff, and the huge mountain range of tens of thousands of square meters is repeatedly reinforced and shaped by Pika. A towering fortress stands on the edge of a cliff with a marine flag waving in the wind. In the center of the fort is its serial number, G5. Behind the huge fortress is an exaggeratedly large schoolyard and outbuildings. Below the cliff is a military port affiliated to G5 and the world-famous G5 Alloy Workshop. Very efficient, Tom. Except for the O4 combat unit which is still out fighting and has not returned to the team, all other personnel have gathered together. No, it's mainly Tahir's credit, including the design of the fortress, and some other collocations. I'm just responsible for the construction on site. Thousands of G5 officers and soldiers stood on the huge square, looking at the fortress inserted into the sky. Dylan looked at the sparse crowd around him, and then at the fortress again. Quote. Is it a bit too big? Chapter 74 G5, S World Conscription. Conscription. Yes, aren't you guys engaged in world conscription? G5 can also participate. Sakazuki twirled the cigar in his mouth. Yes, Dylan, according to the current division, the new headquarters is located under the Red Line, which can be regarded as the end of the New World, and your G5 is guarding the front and middle section of the New World. It should have a more complete system and more powerful combat power. Do you need the headquarters to cooperate with the propaganda? Need. Of course I do, the louder the better, Sakazuki. New. The strongest Marine branch, G5 Special Conscription. Quote. Charter. Dark Dragon, Vice Admiral directly grants the rank of Rear Admiral. Quote. Show your fangs to the New World. Quote. Strong attack for peace and justice. Quote. Under the joint promotion of Marine Headquarters, Mariajoy and World Economic News, the whole world was boiling for a while. The youngest and strongest Marine Vice Admiral Special Conscription in history. I must join. G5. I heard it is the bridgehead to the New World. Big brother. Where are we going? Where? To G5, of course. Dark Dragon. That devil, does he want to increase his strength? There are already so many monsters under his command, it's actually. Is it so blatant? This guy is on par with Marineford. We can't sit still. We can't let potential guys continue to join G5. G5's world conscription period is only 3 months. Contact other people. Cut off the route. Oh, Dylan himself didn't expect that because of his unintentional actions, it would trigger a new round of frenzy for enlistment. However, it is clearly stated in the G5 conscription regulations that the world conscription is only for 3 months, and after 3 months, everything needs to be carried out according to the original promotion rules and background checks. Mom, are we going to send someone to sneak in? No need, that guy's knowledge. There's no need to provoke him. But, you can send someone to participate in the Battle of Interception, initiated by those brats. Battle of Interception. What is it? Cracker asked while squatting aside while stuffing something into his mouth. It was launched by the pirates of the Grand Line, the interference plan for the G5 Special Conscription, to block the guys from the 4 seas or other regions who went to G5 to enlist. On the other side, Katakuri, who was wearing a fluffy scarf, still did not forget the scene when the man came to the world alone and fought against his mother. My current self. No, there should be a gap. According to intelligence, the power displayed by the guy in Summit War. And the guys under his command. Tom, Raging Sea, Shiryu, Rain, Tahir, Sky Fox. The passage to G5 is full of pirates. The ship is coming again. Shelling. What? Actually rushed over. Kill it. Oh. The top floor of the G5 fortress. Bell Mel, who had fully recovered under Manshwali's treatment, jumped up again. Aren't you going to shoot? Is there a lot of trouble around? In the office several times larger than before, Dylan's plaque, Justice for Peace, is hung. The living room, meeting room, lounge, and gym are all available. No need. Lying on the rocking chair, Dylan squinted his eyes. This is a struggle between recruit and thief. We don't need to end. Now that you have decided to participate in the special conscription, you must have the courage and strength to overcome obstacles. The first batch of applicants showed up as early as the first day the newspaper published them. They are humans from De Reese Rosa, humans from the original Alcino Kingdom, and small human warriors from the New Green Bit Kingdom. Advertisement. People on many islands in the surrounding waters that were originally protected by G5 have migrated to New Green Bit under the propaganda of G5. Many of these young people chose to join G5 as soldiers, and Dylan asked the logistics department to select many family members as G5's logistics support personnel. The busiest part of this process is not the soldiers of G5. Because everyone in the world knows that although that man is Marine Vice Admiral, his style and wrist are very tough. In Summit War, he even turned on the live broadcast and executed the deserter in front of people all over the world. So although Greenbit has not promulgated strict laws, everyone consciously restrains themselves, and there are almost no troublemakers. Those gangsters and gangsters don't appear in Greenbit at all. The busiest one is still the CP organization. They are worried all the time. If someone from another organization sneaks in, it's okay for them to identify it by themselves, but if that guy finds out, their resident qualifications will be revoked. So, Mariajoy's accountability is not something they can afford. Although the Dong Tata clan claims to be the royal family of New Greenbit, in fact they almost never show their faces in front of the public. People only know that they are peace-loving and kind-hearted little people. They live in the huge jungle in the center of the royal capital. The government affairs of the Greenbit Kingdom are temporarily represented by Tahir, the commander of the G503 Combat Force, Sky Fox Rear Admiral. This also took Dylan some energy, and finally some government officials were transferred from East Blue. However, these people are not members of the Round Table Conference, they are just seconded by him from the East Blue Kingdom that he has befriended. The battle of blocking and breaking through the outer circle of the G5C area became more and more fierce, and even faintly began to spread to farther places. But the pirates are always not united. More and more people broke through the blockade of the pirates and came to G5. The new G5, the throat of the New World. Is there a particularly strong guy? Not yet, Vice Admiral. Tashigi pushed his glasses. But those who go to the special conscription channel all have unique fighting skills. Understood. Arrange a team for them to participate in marine study. Yes. As more and more people flock to G5 from all over the world, the pressure on the pirates is increasing. Once the gap is opened, those who go to G5 will instantly tear up the originally blocked area there. Vice Admiral. There are Titans here to apply. Dylan is a bit strange. The Titans. Al Buff. Known as the most powerful country in the world. But this title, although their hero, Waterfall Beard was already very old when Linlin killed him, it is somewhat unreasonable to be directly killed by an instant. And Linlin is only 7 or 8 years old. Bulky and sluggish. I don't know if it's because of physical reasons or something else, but the so-called Titan star, Herden, didn't seem to show hockey. However, since it is the power that Linlin has been obsessed with, it should be quite impressive. After all, there are so many and huge human countries, but Al Buff has been firmly seated as the world's strongest for hundreds of years, and there must be their unique strength. It's just that the Titans don't seem to hate the world government, like other alien races. Come to think of it, they seem to be in some sort of split. Known Titans include mercenaries, pirates, marines, and gourmets. Titans have a long lifespan, usually 300 or 400 years old, if you have to say, history and 100 years of blankness. They are definitely the ones who have the most say. After all, in their village, the grandfather of an old man may have been a figure for more than 1,000 years. Maybe he knows more than the guy, Elephant Lord. What is your name? Oblon. Full name. Salpa D. Oberon. Chapter 75 God's Conjecture. D. Dylan subconsciously wanted to refuse, after all D. In his guess, most of them are the survivors of the so-called Great Kingdom group. There's always something wrong with being associated with them. It seems that he has somehow been burdened with a sustenance of bitterness and hatred. How old is it? Combat characteristics. Tashigi flipped through the information and said, well, 60 years old, the weapon is a giant sword. It has not been tested, after all, it is a Titan family. You must know that no matter where the Titans are, they are precious combat power that can't be met. Naval headquarters has less than 10 Titan fighters, and they are all Vice Admiral ranks. 60 years old. This is considered very young in the Titan family. That's right, Tashigi pushed the frame. According to the legend, the average lifespan of a Titan is 300 years old. If it is 60 years old, it is equivalent to about 25 to 30 years old for human beings. It is indeed very young. Such a young guy running out to do marine. If you go to pirates, then you think it's normal. Why does it always feel weird? Let him. Well, let's stay here first. Let's talk about it after the conscription is over. How is it, Grand Consul? When he walked into Tahir's office, he was immersed in reviewing documents. Well, I have some ideas, wait for me to finish dealing with the matter at hand. Tahir didn't look up. Although Dylan was very tough and domineering when giving orders, he was very casual in ordinary trivial matters. Dylan looked at Tahir, who was wearing a light yellow cloak. Two very complex and contradictory auras were revealed from his body at the same time. Seductive and depraved like a witch, yet inviolable like a goddess. The two breaths kept intertwining, but fortunately, after the summit war, Tahir's state of mind gradually calmed down. In addition to the external beauty, his enigmatic charm has been well controlled. Although it will show up a little bit from time to time. This guy is about to wake up. He only needs to truly achieve the consummation of the divine nature, and he can perfectly awaken the Tamamo Mei fruit. There is even a possibility he will become Tamamo Mei. Just like Nika, you have changed a lot recently, but it seems that something is almost out of the last step. Tahir walked to the reception table, raised his long sleeves and poured hot tea for Dylan. I don't know, but I can really feel that there is something lacking in my heart. It seems it's just the last step. Dylan picked up the teacup and blew gently. Did you often read it when you were a child? Is there any record about God in Zhao's ancient books? God. Of course Tahir understood that the God he was referring to was definitely not those who lived on Mariajoy today, and probably not those people who were vaguely mentioned in ancient books. More distant records. Unfortunately, I don't think I have read the classics you mentioned. Well, then what do you think about God? Advertisement. Seeing Tahir's brows frown slightly, Dylan took a sip of tea. In other words, what do you think of the will stored in the Phantom Beast? Dylan told him and Shiryu a long time ago. If you want to awaken Devil Fruit, especially Phantom Beast, you must obtain the approval of its will. Where does this will come from? How to judge? Nobody knows. Let's talk about this. Dylan put down his teacup and moved into a comfortable position. You should have guessed that there was another generation of Protoss in this world before celestial dragons, right? Okay. Tahir nodded. Through some sporadic and obscure records, it is speculated from the fragments that before the celestial dragons, there should indeed be another generation of gods who once ruled this sea. To be precise, the Lunaria tribe, alien races from the starry sky. They have mastered technology far beyond human beings and can survive in any harsh conditions. They ruled the sea for a long time, and then they were held by a group of people who like to hold a banquet. The guys overthrew it, and this group of people is called the D clan. The natural enemy of God, it turns out. Dylan ignored Tahir's surprised eyes, but continued, but what we are going to talk about today is not this God. Dylan folded his arms, as if he was recalling something. These phantom beast fruits are all named after certain gods and monsters, or sacred beasts. You think they exist? Tahir was shocked. I don't know. That's right. Devil fruit will know what kind of fruit it is after eating it, and according to a reliable inference, devil fruit is passed down from generation to generation and will not disappear. And where did they come from? Natural elements: thunder, desert, ice and snow, swamp, magma. These all exist in reality. Paramesha, rubber, steel, diamonds, foam, these also exist, even if they shake, split, open doors, and meet balls. These also exist. Ordinary zones, whether they are common or ancient, all have their basis. Only these phantom beasts. Do you think they exist, or have they ever existed? If they still exist, where are they? If they ever existed, where did they go? Tahir's slender fingers were intertwined. These questions. These phantom beasts are named divine demons, or divine beasts. I think they may have really existed, but in the distant ancient times. One day, they were killed by a stronger life defeated. Or, all smelted. There is also a second possibility, which is that they are really just folklore. In the countless years of word of mouth, there has been a certain resonance, the kind of people who are expected, or the power of fear was really born, and became a devil fruit. Then, what is the legend of Tamamo May? Middle of New World. The original, Whitebeard pirates, territory. On a medium-sized warship, a large number of human heads were placed densely. Shiryu stood at the bow of the boat holding, Thunderstorm, how much? We have killed 92 pirates with bounties so far. There are still 8 people left to complete the goal and return to the team. 8. Just go to Whitebeard's territory and look for it. It can't all be these tens of millions of trash. Then, according to the information provided by CP0 when we left, the one with the highest probability of appearing in the vicinity is the AO pirates under the former Whitebeard pirates. It's almost the same, except for those 2 or 3 guys, the others. In Summit War, except for Phoenix, Marco, Diamond, Josie, and Foil, Vista, the other guys are all ordinary. Sir, there is a pirate flag ahead. The flag is the Kid Pirates, Chapter 76 Indestructible Goggles. Grand Line Baltigo. Still not sure. Sorry. Although Betty has frequently exposed flaws to them in recent years, they seem to be extra cautious. The commander-in-chief of the Revolutionary Army, Monkey D. Dragon's face is solemn. Many tyrannies have been overthrown in East Blue, and many are governed fairly well. The strange thing is, Sabo also frowned. They didn't stand against the world government, but joined the world government one after another after they developed enough national strength. What about the inside? Speaking of this, Sabo became serious. This is exactly where we are puzzled. According to some clues, we have counted all the kingdoms in East Blue where the regime has changed or been in turmoil in the past 15 years. After several years of observation, we found a very amazing situation. Their kings, consuls, and generals all live very ordinary lives. Although they are not simple or poor, they are definitely very different from other noble and royal families. Although the lives of commoners are not very rich, they are definitely very rich, stable. The most frightening thing is, according to some intelligence reports, when these ruling personnel begin to show signs of corruption, they will be quickly wiped out and replaced. 15 years. Long raised his head as if he had grasped something. Push forward the investigation time. Sabo, start with Roger's execution. Mariajoy. CP Organization Headquarters. Any clues? No, the clues can't be connected in series. We only know that there is definitely a terrifying force hidden in East Blue. They are similar to the Revolutionary Army, but they are not aimed at opposing the world government. Over the past 10 years, East Blue has added 37 kingdoms to the world government, 9 of which have gained World Summit seats. Plus the original kingdoms, East Blue, already occupied nearly 1/3 of the seats. Add more powerful power into it. No. A voice immediately interrupted the proposal. The power of this organization itself should not be underestimated. The Eastern Army of the Revolutionary Army seems to have an ambiguous relationship with them. In addition, don't forget that we have been in the how many people in East Blue disappeared inexplicably. Except for this mysterious organization and the Revolutionary Army. East Blue has another group of people. Although the organization is loose, their strength is even more terrifying than the above two. Let's complete other deals first. About Dark Dragon and Kaido. Shiryu's face lit up when he heard the words, Kid Pirates. Very good. Let him run in the Sabayati archipelago, and he can clearly feel Dylan's distaste for this guy. Killing him. Dylan would be happy, right? Black mist began to fill Shiryu's body, and the fangs in his mouth became thicker and sharper. Stay where you are. Yes. The adjutant just replied. With a bang, Shiryu spread 2 huge fleshy wings behind him and flew towards the pirate ship in the distance. On the sea in the distance, the navigator on the mast shouted, Marine. Marine. G5 Marine warship. Swish. Boom. A black slash slashed across, and the main mast of the Victoria Punk fell sideways in an instant. Oops. It's Shiryu of the Ron. Eustace Kid jumped out of the cabin when he heard the word, G5. Wearing goggles, the cruel kid looked at Shiryu who was floating in the sky and holding, Thunderstorm. G5. Guy. This guy is also among the best in G5. Eustace Kid gritted his teeth. I absolutely can't fall here. Okay. Seeing the panic in Kid's eyes, Shiryu was slightly surprised. This guy is not a well-known character. What? Supernova 11 people are just frogs in a well. A small character whose bounty has just exceeded 100 million. Although there were some doubts in his heart, his body did not hesitate at all, and a black mist fell on the Victoria punk. Bounty offender. 7 or 8 reward orders were pasted on the wall outside the cabin. Advertisement. After Shiryu glanced, his eyes flicked across the deck one by one. 1, 2, 3, 9. There is still room to complete the task. Click. Shiryu's right hand grasped the handle of the knife. The black mist instantly flooded the entire deck. The moment the black mist rose, a figure shuttled across the deck. The moment Eustace Kid heard the screams and the sound of falling to the ground, he activated his ability. The skull made of metal on the cabin vibrated and then made a jingling sound. Magneto Demon. Where? The kid, who was wrapped in metal, looked at the black mist under his feet, trying to find Shiryu's figure. Found it. The moment he found Shiryu's figure, the two fists of the metal monster pinched towards that position with the sound of howling wind. Magnetic vice. Boom. There was a huge impact sound, and Kid's face in the metal flashed with joy. Anyway, this guy is also made of flesh and blood. This level of impact. Squeak, squeak. There was a teeth-stinging rubbing sound, and the metal demon's fists that were originally pressed together slowly separated. One head is missing. Shiryu, who stood still, looked at the broken bones and plasma on his hands and chest, and looked up at Kid, whose pupils shrunk, adding yours is just enough. Drops of water began to fall from the sky. Kid's head also started to sweat profusely. The gap is that big. She. The rain in the sky began to increase gradually. Red. Is it? Blood rain. Thunderstorm slowly inserted the scabbard. Shiryu shook his head. No. It's sticks. Click. The thunderstorm returned to its sheath, and the body of the magnetic demon began to disintegrate and dissipate. Shiryu walked up to Kid who had turned into a blood man, picked up his head and looked at him. What material is this goggle made of? It won't break. Gululu. After returning to the warship, Shiryu threw 8 heads on the deck. Return. Return to the team. Yes. Excited responses came from the deck, drifting at sea for nearly a month. No matter how strong people are, they start to feel tired and restless. 100 pirates with bounty. Finally completed. At this point, a month has passed since G5's world conscription. Chapter 77 Double Team. What wave is it? In the middle of the Grand Line, on a boat, 2 young men with similar looks stood chatting on the boat. Bah. After the young man standing in front of the rudder spit out a mouthful of saliva, he kicked the corpse of the pirate wearing a hood next to him and flew out. Pirate corpses lay densely all over the deck. Today's second wave, the 24th wave I encountered after coming here. The pirates here are really rampant, they are already very close to G5. The young man at the helm said while controlling the rudder, it's a special case. After all, that man must also know about the Battle of Interception, launched by the pirates. If you want to become an officer directly through special conscription, you don't have the strength, the guy can't do it. By the way, big brother, the young man at the helm turned his head to look at the young man leaning against the side of the ship. Why don't we go straight to the naval headquarters, enlistment? Headquarters. The tone of the young man resting on the side was full of disdain. It's just a group of puppets, controlled by celestial dragons. Although many details in the Summit War were not completely live broadcast, after the war ended, the whole picture of the war was portrayed and disseminated. Akainu is an iron-blooded soldier and a qualified marine general, but what about Dark Dragon? Can he really do it? Change this world. Their hometowns have not been recognized and protected by the marine and world governments because they cannot afford the high, heavenly gold. Perennial famine and wars have constantly devastated their countries. Who knows, but the young man on the side of the boat closed his eyes. We always have to try, we can't be stuck in West Blue forever. Before the young man at the helm could reply, another ship flying the pirate flag sailed towards them in the distance. Again, HMPH. The young man leaning against the side of the ship stood up and looked at the pirate ship on the sea in the distance. After more than a month of probing and fighting, the two sides are now fighting hard. More and more New World pirates have joined the Intercept, but those who can come to this range. Ain drew a circle on the map with the new G5 base as the center. At present, those who can reach this range are all guys with quite powerful combat capabilities. There are even some people. They have spontaneously organized together. After breaking through the pirates' defense, they did not come directly to report, but continued to look for other pirates to fight. It seems that I want to wait for the last day to report. Dylan laughed. It's really a group of energetic guys, not bad. G5 needs this kind of people. How long is it until the end of the conscription? 5 days. Very good. Dylan stood up. Order. All the officers below looked straight. This is a very formal order. The 01 to 07 combat units of the Marine G5 branch are fully reorganized and ready for battle. After the conscription is over, clean the outside for 10 days. Lousy sight. You can come, but you can't go. The pirates outside also got angry with the recruits. These guys gathered from all over the world, including some well-known players. Advertisement. Pirate Hunter, fighting champion, captain of the Kingdom's Guard, well-known adventurer. Although many of them are strangers to each other, for the same purpose, they form partners with each other, give their backs to each other, and move in the same direction. Slowly, the pirates were actually squeezed into the middle ground between G5 and the recruiters, and were double-teamed. Hina was surprised. In Dylan's office, Hina stared at Dylan. Is this your plan? Huh, a plot. Hina took off the cigarette and looked at the red circle on the map. Isn't it? Use conscription as an excuse to stimulate the pirates, fear and defense against you. Lure them to block, recruit, and then form a siege. Very a successful battle plan. Hina is ashamed of herself. Dylan laughed dumbfounded. It was purely an accident. That's what you are, Dylan. No wonder you have the respect of all Marines. What? Hina held a cigarette, looked at the plaque above his head, and said leisurely. Young, powerful, tolerant and kind to the people, ruthless and decisive to the enemy, owning a lot of wealth but not paying attention to personal enjoyment. Hina is very ashamed and deeply feels her own. Weak and superficial. Dylan shook his head. These are just the opinions of outsiders. I'm not that noble. I also have desires and selfishness. Don't believe in saints, Hina. Saints, sometimes they are scarier than devils. Quote. Black threshold. Hina didn't answer this sentence, and stared at the huge plaque, Justice for Peace. Will there really be a day of peace? Who knows? You are from Granny's side, and the great staff officer has a lot of information channels, right? Dylan looked at Hina, who was a little dazed, and shook his head. This is a responsible and clear-cut Marine general. It seems that he came into contact with some secret information, and his confidence was hurt. Some things, you have to do it yourself to know the result. Black threshold. Hina left full of thoughts, and Dylan didn't say anything to her. The old strong. He disappeared with Miss Barkin after Dylan cut off Wable's arm 7 years ago. The current news is that the guy is hunting the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates around New World, claiming that he wants to get back the wealth that belongs to his father. The Wind of Refactoring, 7 Warlords of the Sea, has also been released. The first generation of Shichibukai currently has Mihawk, Hancock, and Doflamingo. Lokdar was killed, Jinbei rebelled, Moria was removed, and Shang was removed. If nothing goes wrong, this, Whitebeard too, should have entered their line of sight. After all, he was evaluated as a guy who has the same strength as the young Whitebeard. There are still nearly 2 years until the next World Summit. Even if this system is to be abolished, it will not be achieved overnight. Dylan doesn't think he can compete with 5 elders on such a big decision. Even if there is, it is not necessary. Power and requirements should be used in more reasonable places. But Zephyr, looking at IN who came in to report, Dylan sighed in his heart. No matter what, I will help you, because you have supported me in the headquarters for so many years. Naval Headquarters Chief Instructor, Black Arm, Zephyr. Although it has been a long time since he retired from the position of Admiral, he still has the same reputation as Garp in Marine. After the capable person attack, Zephyr's attitude towards Dylan changed drastically, and he defended Dylan many times in the headquarters meeting. Compared to Salted Fish Kuzan, Zephyr's love for him is more like his boss. Chapter 78 Right and Wrong. What? The G5 middle-level kendo field in the dead of night. Tashigi looked serious, holding the Flower Island tightly and swinging the knife meticulously. Must be stronger. You have to work harder than others. Beads of sweat had already appeared on his forehead, and sweat had also slid down his cheeks. The glasses had been covered by steaming mist, and although her arms had begun to lose control and her body had begun to become stiff, she was still strictly completing the swinging of the knife again and again. Meticulous every time. Dylan sat on the windowsill behind her and watched her quietly. After she stopped, Dylan tapped on the windowsill. Tashigi. After finishing the training, Tashigi returned to a dazed look, and quickly wiped his glasses after hearing Dylan's voice. Huh. Vice Admiral, sorry to disturb your rest. Dylan jumped off the ledge, walked to the cushion next to him, and motioned for her to sit down and rest too. I can feel the anxiety in your heart, but I don't quite understand where this anxiety comes from. Tashigi, who was sitting across from him, held Wajo tightly in his hand when he heard this sentence, and remembered the hidden famous sword, Hidao Yiwen, and its owner. I want to do more. If I had more power, I could. Power. Looking at the unwilling Tashigi, Dylan took out a devil fruit and placed it between them. This is a very powerful devil fruit, comparable to Tahir and Shiryu. If you simply want power, I can give it to you without any price or reward. Regarding Teach's body, he once speculated that the reason why the Garuda fruit has been shelved in his hands is that there is no suitable candidate, and another reason is that when the conditions are ripe one day, he wants to try it yourself. After all, in some respects, maybe he and Teach physically have something in common. Looking at the red gold devil fruit in front of him, Tashigi hesitated, but then shook his head again. Although he knew that Mr. Shiryu's combat power has improved a lot because of the fruit, Tashigi still followed his heart and replied, I want to be a simple swordsman. Okay. Looking at the sweaty Tashigi, Dylan put the fruit back into the ring and took another knife. Then, try to tame it. When you can tame it, you will be a powerful swordsman. Second generation Goosh, 21 workers of the big fast knife. A thank you gift from Wanokuni swordsmith Hitoru Tenguyama. Second generation Onitaru such a famous sword. Tashigi. Seeing his hesitation, Dylan shouted. Don't underestimate yourself. But don't push yourself too hard either. Everyone has their own stage. No one can be the savior by himself. Fighting bloody battles, killing generals and capturing the flag is to contribute to peace, and to stick to the rear and protect the environment and the people is also to contribute to peace. Don't be fooled by this era. Everyone has their own good and favorite things. Don't force yourself, follow your heart. Dylan stood up and walked out the door. I've already told Aine that you can join the 06 unit she leads, and you can go with her for the next hunt. When he reached the first floor, the light in Ayu's room was still on. Because Ayu is still young and often needs to go to the school to exercise and study with Tahir, Dylan specially arranged her room on the first floor. Advertisement. Looking at the clock at the end of the corridor, Dylan went to Ayu's room door and knocked. Haven't you rested yet, Ayu? Brother Dylan, wait a moment. I'll open the door for you right away. After a flustered sound, Ayu's footsteps sounded at the door. What are you doing? If you don't rest so late, you won't grow taller. Dylan stood at the door, not intending to go in anytime soon. The child grows up and begins to have his own privacy. Ayu bit her lip, turned her body and asked Dylan to go in. In the room, a thin quilt was neatly folded on her little bed, and there were a few clothes beside her that hadn't been hidden in time. It was all the luggage that Hikaru Tenguyama had prepared for her when she left Wanokuni 2 years ago. The clothes and quilts are all starched and almost faded, and they are covered with patches. Looking into Ayu's red eyes, Dylan sat beside him and touched her head. I am usually very busy, although most of G5's affairs are handled by other people, but East Blue, Water City, Magnetic Drum Island, add up, and I still have my own cultivation. With these things piled up, he actually has very little leisure time every day. There is very little time to accompany Ayu. Are you worried about Fike? Ayu lowered her head, and big teardrops rolled down her cheeks. Brother, Ayu lives like this every day in G5, but everyone in the village. Although Dylan left a lot of food and easy to cultivate grain seeds to the village when Dylan left, but that kind of place. The pollution is serious, and they often face the looting of beasts pirates. It must be back to starvation now. Ayu. Dylan showed a trace of apology. Brother promised you that he will return to that place. By that day, everyone will have enough to eat and drink clean water. At that time, you will tell everyone what you have seen and heard on the sea. Ayu raised his hand and wiped his tears with the back of his hand, then looked up at Dylan. I'm sorry, big brother, Ayu knows you are busy, Ayu shouldn't. After patting Ayu's back and comforting him, Dylan shook his head. Why, I have something sad in my heart, of course I should tell my brother, this is my honor. After Ayu calmed down and fell asleep, Dylan sighed softly, turned off the light and walked out lightly. In the darkness, tears rolled down Ayu's face again. At the end of the corridor, Dylan lit a cigarette and sat on the steps, looking at the vast starry sky outside the window. It's rare to see you like this. Belmo walked over to him with his coat on and sat down, took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it for himself. What's on your mind? Why don't you tell me too? Belmel. Dylan looked at the sea and the starry sky in the distance and sighed. Sometimes, when I see Ayu, I wonder if I did something wrong. At that time, should I just call Nami bringing Nuo Chigao to G5, will it be different from today's situation? When he returned to Kokosha village in the past 2 years, he clearly felt Aegean's self-blame and Nuo Chigao's pain. It's not your fault, Dylan. Belmel also sighed. You saved us once back then, and in the past 2 years. I talked with Tahir about some things, he gave me some of his conjectures. Back then, you rose so fast and your methods were tough, if you brought them to G5 at the very beginning, unless you stay close to each other, even if Tom is at the base, I'm afraid you may not be able to take care of them. After all, Tom also needs to practice, and he also needs to take care of the dock and workshop. If people know that, Dark Dragon, Dylan's righteous sister is in the base. Later, when our strength became stronger, Nami, she already had her own ideas, and at that time, I'm afraid you also realized the existence of those people. It's those people who led Nami on purpose, right? It's not your fault, you gave them a life of abundance and a carefree childhood, you've done a good job, Dylan, don't blame yourself. If you want to blame yourself, I, a mother, should blame myself even more. After a while, I will look for Nami, and besides. Dylan extinguished the cigarette butt in his hand. I have sent someone to pick up Nuo Chigao, let her come and help me. Okay. Chapter 79 Cleaning. G5 Base Square. Dylan stood on the high platform and looked at the neat phalanx below. 01 Combat Force, led by Rear Admiral, Scarlet Sky, Bell Meyer. 02 Combat Force, led by Rear Admiral, Furious Sea, Tom. 03 Combat Force, led by Rear Admiral, Sky Fox, Tahir. 04 Combat Force, led by Commodore, Rain, Shiryu. Combat Force 05 led by Colonel, The Scalpel, Trafalgar Law. 06 Combat Force, led by Commodore, Broken Moon, Ian. 07 Combat Force, led by Commodore, Captain, Leo. The non-staff team, led by Black Flag, Alex. When the first rays of sunlight rose from the sea level, everyone looked upright. This is the first large-scale attack of the G5 branch on the New World. Although some recruiters just arrived yesterday, they haven't even had time to rest and confer titles. But people who come to G5, I believe, are not for official position or power. We stand here with only one purpose. Caw caw caw, caw caw caw. In the middle of the fortress, under the words G5, a huge plaque rose up. Justice for peace. For peace, for the unarmed. For those who cannot fight. All the Marines, breathing became short of breath, and a fiery light appeared in their eyes. What we carry on our shoulders is not only military rank, not only power, it is the sustenance of countless people. It is a shield to guard peace and a sharp sword to crush evil. Now. Boom. Everyone straightened their bodies together. A huge sound broke through the sky, and the heartbeat in the chest was like the roar of a war drum. Take up arms, board the warship. Fight. After the scene was silent for a second, the soaring roar swept across the four directions like a huge wave. Fighting. Fighting. Dylan raised his right hand and clenched it into a fist. Let's go. Back in the office, the map is divided into 8 areas with G5 as the center. With the huge lifting platform on the cliff activated, the combat troops of G5 entered the port and boarded their respective warships. Except for the non-staff team led by Alex with only one warship, each of the other teams is composed of a main ship. Supplemented by a fleet of 4 warships. A total of 36 warships set off from the G5 branch and headed for the quartet. New Greenbit Orient, Kingdom of de Reese Rosa. What a daring fellow. Bark bark bark. Although CP0 has tried its best to identify spies, it is inevitable that some people from various forces will still sneak into the periphery to monitor G5's every move. Dover. 10 days, our business will be greatly affected. Torrebel stood behind Doflamingo leaning on a cane. What is the relationship? Doflamingo looked at the calm sea in the distance. That guy Dylan is really different. Unfortunately, if he was willing to be a pirate, the world would have been in chaos long ago. Our business. It's a good time to shrink and clear some businesses that are already outdated. Doflamingo raised his arms. Hey, next. We don't need to do anything, just wait for this guy to mess up the sea. B*************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** If the shipping lanes are blocked like this, we won't be able to buy weapons from Joker. Where is Joker? Isn't he 7 Warlords of the Sea? 7 Warlords of the Sea. The name doesn't work in front of that guy, these disciplines can't restrain him. The 8 teams attacking outward are like tigers attacking sheep. Although there are some well-known players among the pirates, the subordinates of the big pirates have already withdrawn or simply did not join. During the Battle of Interdiction, G5's combat power did not end. Although the big pirates didn't enter directly, they more or less sent marginal figures to participate. Advertisement. Now that G5 has made a move, the big pirates left the field early with great wit. Pirates are like that, they are not companions. Between pirates and pirates, also enemies. When the first pirate group saw the G5 warship sailing towards them, the bodies of the people on board began to weaken. GG504. It's Ra and Shiryu. Turn the steering wheel quickly. Shiryu stood on the bow and fiddled with the thunderstorm, but then let it go. If you just cut off the ship, you won't be able to collect heads. Before the departure, the chiefs of all the combat troops agreed that there would be an internal competition. Goal. Number 1 in total rewards. Although there is no bet in it, everyone is sharpening their swords. This is not only an internal competition, but also a great opportunity to show the power of Marine to the world. After this time, in the sea area of thousands of kilometers under the command of the G5 branch, the pirates stop. Countless pirates were crying and fleeing into the distance, but the power of the pirate ships was vastly different from that of the G5. Metal from G5 Alloy Workshop. The power system provided by Vegapunk, the chief scientist of Naval Headquarters Science Force Laboratory. Manufactured by the world's number 1 shipbuilding center, Water Capital Special Production Line. All fleets follow one order. Just kill and not catch. Lousy doesn't have so much free time to support them. Remember to bring all the heads back, I'm useful. The pirates who originally gathered from everywhere were directly pierced by the G5 fleet at full speed before they could evacuate. Although there is a gap in the number of G5 compared with pirates, the combat effectiveness is not the same. In the east direction, the pirates who had no time to evacuate ran towards the direction of de Reese Rosa. There, is it a member country of the world government, or one of the World Summit 50 countries? Guys from G5, shouldn't mess around there. Join Lousy. Hey, you guys are really good at taking advantage of loopholes, but Lousy refuses. As the birdcage opened, the entire de Reese Rosa was instantly closed. You can't get in from the outside, and you can't get out from the inside. B**************** D Doflamingo actually blocked de Reese Rosa directly. Run, Tom's fleet is coming. Just as the pirates' boats raised their sails, the sea suddenly heaved violently. A tawny figure stood on the waves and looked at the pirate ship shaking in the waves. No, sea current. He controls the surrounding sea current. Let's go together. Get rid of him. Oh, Tom on the waves froze for a moment, and rushed over. Looking at the staggering pirate ship rushing towards him, Tom raised his arms. In an instant, the sea surface within a few kilometers sank slightly. High tide drum Sora. Boom. With the pressing of both palms, countless continuous ripples centered on Tom on the entire sea surface. Kaka. The pirate ships surrounded from all directions made a cracking sound in the ripples. Snapped. Looking at the countless disintegrated pirate ships and the pirates floating on the water, Tom rubbed his palms. There are a lot of people. Seeing some pirates sinking to the bottom, Tom jumped off the waves. The moment he got into the sea, he remembered a joke of Dylan back then, which was what Dylan said to him after he defeated Jinbei. Tom, from today onwards, you are the strongest corpse hunter in this sea. Chapter 80 The Old Man's Request. Below the red line, the new naval headquarters. That's a lot of movement, Dylan Guy. After this cleaning, there will be no pirate ships around that channel, except for the Don Quixote family. I'm afraid they don't dare to fly the pirate flag to go to sea. Most likely they want to replace it with de Rose's king flag. About refactoring 7 warlords of the sea. When it came to this, everyone in the meeting room fell silent. The list of Mariajoy has been released, and the others don't care, but there is one name that everyone resists. Whitebeard 2, Edward Weeble. The guy who lost a hand to Chief Instructor, Zephyr ended up on the proposed list. Zephyr. Outside the conference room, Sengoku, Garp, and Suru were also looking at the list on their small table. In this case, I'm afraid it will have a huge impact on Zephyr's faith, Marine. How about Zephyr? Crane Vice Admiral propped his chin and sighed. I heard that training has been stopped and I haven't gone out for a few days. Sengoku thumped the teacup in his hand. You can't hurt Zephyr like this. Garp folded his arms and bowed his head in silence, while Crane Vice Admiral said with some surprise, do you have any plans? Sengoku, this is the list drawn up by Mariajoy. PFF ha 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 ha. That's right, Sengoku, when you were marshal, you couldn't do anything about it. Now you're a semi-recluse, do you still want to reject the draft above? Garp laughed, but there was something in his expression. A trace of loss. Zephyr. Sengoku's glasses flashed. Yes, we are all semi-hermits, and we can no longer directly participate in decision-making, but don't forget. Sengoku took out his pen and stroked the name of Whitebeard 2, Edward Weeble. There's a guy who's in the limelight and has Mariajoy's confidence. Crane Vice Admiral smiled slightly. That's true, and this list is only a draft, it has not been announced and implemented. With his strength and character, there is still room for manipulation. Garp and Sengoku looked at Suru Vice Admiral at the same time, showing anticipation. Crane Vice Admiral gave them a blank look. Okay, I understand, you guys, I will discuss it with little Dylan, even if it means abandoning my old face. Sengoku and Garp froze. After the Summit War, Dylan never contacted them again, and he didn't talk to them when he returned to Marineford. During the war, their hesitation and stance did not cause Dylan to break with them, but they also created irreconcilable differences. Bolu Bolu, Bolu Bolu. Hey, Dylan, I'm Crane. The phone bug turned into a shriveled old lady. Granny what's the matter? Although Crane Vice Admiral did not enter enemy positions during the war. But how to put it? Women and men are still different after all, and Crane Vice Admiral is not famous for his combat power. Garp and Sengoku, who were sitting on the side, looked at each other when they heard Dylan's tone, and they both showed a hint of joy. If it was the two of them, though Dylan wouldn't hang up directly. But there must be no good tone. It's okay to talk about business matters, but I'm afraid there is no way to talk about private matters. Dylan, before Crane Vice Admiral could speak, Dylan on the opposite side frowned. You. Advertisement. Crane Vice Admiral showed a look of disappointment. Yeah, we old guys have something to do, I want to ask you. Sengoku and Garp next to each other became nervous, in case Dylan dropped the phone at this time. On the other end of the phone bug, Dylan asked after a moment of silence, about Zephyr. Crane Vice Admiral nodded. It seems that we can't hide it from you, Dylan, we want to ask you to kill Edward Weeble. Unexpectedly, Dylan responded to them without any hesitation. The next sentence made both Garp and Sengoku frown. But I have a request. Sengoku and Garp are looking for an empty application. I request that Zephyr be transferred to the G5 branch in the name of retirement and rehiring. Can it be done? Before Crane Vice Admiral could respond, Dylan narrowed his eyes. Sengoku, Garp, are you here? Is this your justice? A man who has dedicated his life to the Marine and justice, a purer soldier than you, if I don't agree to take action today, what will happen to him? You too, if you want, just Ba Jin and Weeble, you can kill them at will, right? After 10 days, I will make a move, and I will also receive a transfer order from Zephyr. Boo. The phone bug closed his eyes. Garp and Sengoku looked at each other and fell silent at the same time. You old bastards. Crane Vice Admiral knocked on the table. There is no problem with what he said, let's be considerate to each other. In addition, Crane Vice Admiral looked at Sengoku and Garp very seriously. Old men, go and warn those old ghosts, don't act rashly because of Ba Jin and Weeble. Since we ask young people to do things, we can't let young people suffer from the enemy. Understood. Sengoku nodded in response, and Garp nodded after a moment of silence. In any case, the situation cannot be allowed to continue, and Zephyr will completely lose confidence in Marine. The hit to Marine's morale was also huge. On the 8th day of G5's cleaning, outwards, almost all the pirates who could run away ran away, and those who did not run away turned into heads piled up on the ships of each fleet. About there. During the telephone bug meeting, the chiefs of each combat unit decided to start a U-turn after exchanging opinions. Clean up the fish that slipped through the net and consolidate the results of the battle. After the fleets returned, flags were planted on the outermost islands. Banner from Kingdom of Greenbit. But all the pirates know, that's actually another banner of G5. This also declares that this sea area of thousands of kilometers in length and width has been declared to be covered by the new Greenbit. No, it is ruled by the G5 base. Divide regions, establish lower-level outposts by middle-level military officers, cooperate with the Greenbit Kingdom to develop trade, develop commerce, and collect taxes. Dylan began to plan the next strategy in front of the map. Nuo Chigao asked while recording, "Brother Dylan, why do you still need to collect taxes and do business? Your money." She doesn't quite understand, but now she already knows, the rumor from the outside world. Marine Vice Admiral, Dark Dragon, perhaps the richest person in the world. With so much wealth, why develop commerce and trade? Nuo Chigao, wealth does not simply refer to gold or jewelry, and even Bailey is not considered wealth in some ways. If I put my gold and jewelry into this world, it will only greatly reduce their value. This question is very complicated. I didn't study well when I was young, so I can't give you a systematic answer. But you have to remember a point of view. Wealth in circulation is real wealth. Chapter 81. Head Mountain. When the newspapers of the new day fly around the world, the whole world boiled again. On a deserted island in the west of the sea area of the Greenbit Kingdom, a huge landscape that was piled up by tens of thousands of pirate heads and watered and solidified rose from the ground. Most of the pyramid-like people have expressions of horror and despair on their heads. As the method so cruel. Even in the depths of New World, some pirates who did not participate in the Battle of Interception were deeply disturbed and anxious. The new Marine Marshal, Akainu, is himself a well-known Hawk General. Now this man who has replaced Garp is the strongest Vice Admiral in history. Scarier than Akainu. The pirates who were originally entrenched around the Greenbit Kingdom began to migrate one after another, and some of them were not strong enough and even started to retreat to the Paradise, while some of the pirates in the Paradise began to return to the Four Seas. One Piece. There's that man standing at the portal of New World, and they've already lost their qualifications. But behind this series of events, it has brought more far-reaching effects. The pirates who return to the Four Seas from Paradise, or even New World, are almost overwhelming for the Marines in the Four Seas. The situation in the world is once again in turmoil, even more chaotic than after Roger's execution, and some at war. But the man who caused this series of turmoil has disappeared from people's sight at this time. Came to the depths of New World. Jin actually said that there is no treasure. Newgate. He has dominated the sea for 20 years, shouldn't all his treasure be in the hands of you, Wilds? Now, as his wife, and his son, it's only natural for us to inherit his legacy. Jin Oh, the leader of the AO pirates, fell to the ground, with blood gushing from his mouth. Miss Ba Jin walked up to him and poked his body with a cane. So, where is Newgate's treasure? AO turned his head with difficulty and looked at the short woman and the monster-like man next to him. If you are really Daddy's wife, shouldn't you seek revenge from Marine and Teach? Why? After Miss kicked him on the head, he frantically began to beat his body with crutches. Revenge. This kind of thing is meaningless, only wealth is eternal. As a man of the sea, you have to be responsible for your own life and death. Revenge or something, it's really an obscene entrustment. Jin After panting for breath, AO spat bloody saliva at Miss Ba Jin. B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* flying. Miss Ba Jin's face darkened, and then he turned around silently. Weibo, kill him. Good mom. A big knife pierced directly into Ao's body with a whistling sound of piercing through the air. The corpses of pirates are scattered all over the surrounding beaches. Whitebeard pirates. Ao pirates. All destroyed. Let's go, Weibo, go find other guys. As his son, you must inherit his inheritance in a legitimate way. Son. That's right, that's right. Miss Ba Jin took out a reward order from his pocket. Look carefully, this is your father. Edward Weeble squatted down and looked at the photo in Miss Ba Jin's hand. Is it a mirror? It's a photo. Idiot, it's your father's photo. Miss Ba Jin hit Weibo on the leg with a cane. As that's so, I thought it was a mirror. Miss Ba Jin laughed arrogantly. That's right, he looks so similar, how could he not be his own son? Excuse me, a voice sounded from the distant beach. Dylan carried Shira and walked towards them unhurriedly. I have a question, how did Whitebeard have a son with you? The moment she heard this voice, uncontrollable anger appeared on Mrs. face. I said yes, it's that guy. Mom, he cut off my hand. I know, I'm not old enough, son of ABCH. Miss Bajan stared at Dylan, with a strange smile on his mouth. The guy who replaced Garp as the strongest vice admiral. The world government, does it mean to break the promise? Advertisement. Humph. Dylan inserted the scabbard into the beach, and slowly pulled out Shira. Promise, that's you and Garp, and others, lousy doesn't remember. Ding. Shira's blade collided with Miss Ba Jin's crutch. What kind of promise did you have with you? Miss Ba Jin's arms trembled slightly, and his face sank. How to treat Whitebeard's widow, like this. Weeble. Oh, Mom, idiot, get rid of him. Looking at the huge stitch marks on Weible's hands and chest, Dylan tightened the handle of the knife. Can the cut part be stitched back? That's right, Kim ha ha ha, Weible is unkillable. The corner of Dylan's mouth curled up into a smile, and the powerful hockey erupted instantly knocked Miss Bajan back. Really? Then what if? Cut into minced meat. Dylan lifted Shira across his chest, and put his left hand against the back of Shira's saber. There was a breath from the saber that made Miss Bajan deeply disturbed. Condemned. Inanimate. Boom. A black dragon shadow faintly emerged from the huge bloody slash and rushed towards Miss Ba Jin. Brat. Hockey instantly covered Miss Ba Jin's crutches. Compared with that mighty slash, Miss Ba Jin's body was as weak as a baby. The huge air wave overturned the entire beach, and Miss Ba Jin put his hands on the head of the crutch. Wable. Wable. Laugh. Behind Wable, Dylan's body was hanging upside down, and Shira's blade slashed across his body. Wow, Mom. Hearing Wable's screams, Miss turned her head with difficulty. Damn, this brat. The body is really good. Dylan didn't cut off Wable's body with a knife, but only exposed the dense bones under the skin. Want to watch Zanjin's show? As soon as Shira turned around, the crimson aura wrapped around Hockey and began to circulate crazily. Well, with a muffled grunt, Shira's blade went straight into Wable's body. Before he could turn around, the aura attached to Shira Dao exploded instantly. Condemnation Yama of the 10 Temples. The slash exploded like fireworks, blooming from Wable's body. Slap, 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 countless minced meat fell from the sky. It's just 2 sentences, the guy who claims to have Whitebeard's youthful strength, Edward Wable. Die. Dylan flicked the bloodline on his knife and looked at the panting Miss Ba Jin in front of him. Kid, killed Wable, it's not that serious, if you kill me. Dylan walked towards her nonchalantly, knife in hand. If you dare to kill me, then the promise will be invalid. Rocks. Laugh. A line of blood flew across, and the head of Miss Ba Jin flew up. Conviction Kunlun. A slender slash flew across the sky, separating the entire sea surface. Dylan kicked Miss Ba Jin's head, which was still looking incredible. Rocks. Since Garp dared me to kill you, he wouldn't do nothing. Chapter 82 Zephyr. The signal has been sent. East Blue. In the huge mountain conference room, Balmond was still sitting first on the left. Starting the seeds we planted in South Blue and North Blue, it's time to germinate them. After looking around, Balmond's line of sight finally fell on the strong man on the first right. Craig, in the name of Chief of Staff, I will act as Mr. and order the mobilization of the 3rd Army Corps to go to South Blue to cooperate with the operation and quickly seize some war-torn countries from non-member countries and those that have fallen into the hands of pirates. Nation. The strong man's expression remained unchanged, but he responded lightly, understood. East Blue here. Balmond raised his sleeve and flicked it, and the desktop instantly lit up. Except for Goa Kingdom, Bridge Country, Rog Town and Shimotsky Village, the rest are inseparable from the world government, based on our own judgment. Relationships are a kingdom supported by the CP organization. Next, our personnel in the Grand Line will increase efforts to collect devil fruit. Let our combat effectiveness be more changeable and flexible. Within a year and a half, we're going to have a third of South Blue. At least 3 countries must be eligible for the World Summit. After everyone left, Balmond looked at the strong man Craig on the right. Although the situation in South Blue is far less complicated than that in East Blue, there are still people in the Revolutionary Army and CP. We should be more cautious and not expose our flaws. Craig nodded after a moment of silence. The waters west of Greenbit. A warship was parked next to the deserted island made of tens of thousands of human heads. Zephyr, with a huge seastone mechanical arm in his right hand, looked at the terrified and desperate expressions on the faces of the pirates. Dylan Binns, who was standing behind Zephyr, also looked into the distance with a shocked expression. Compared with the photos in the newspaper and the real scene, there is a world of difference. Although the Marshal of the 3 armies, Sora strongly objected after receiving the application from Garp and Sengoku, when Zephyr himself appeared in front of him and expressed his firm determination, Sora could only sigh and sign the transfer order. Naval Headquarters, Chief Instructor, Black Arm, Zephyr reassigned to Marine G5 branch. The position column is left blank. According to Zephyr's request, he doesn't need any position, he just goes to encourage and cheer for the young people. It's really good. The warship lifted anchor and drove towards the G5 base. Zephyr coming. Yes, I stayed at Rentu Mountain for a while, and now I have arrived at the lifting platform. Nokigao has taken over most of the clerical duties from Ian and Tashigi, becoming Dylan's clerical adjutant. When Zephyr came to G5, seeing the flags fluttering in the sky and the energetic recruits filled with enthusiasm. It's really energetic. Zephyr. Dylan stood at the door, looking at the already aged Zephyr, as the road going well. Zephyr turned around and looked at Dylan and Ain behind him with a slight smile. Ah. G5's ship, most people dare not approach it. Even Ain, who is usually very calm, was a little excited at this time. She also knew that the guy who created the ability user attack was actually nominated as 7 Warlords of the Sea. But just the other day, Vice Admiral went solo to New World to erase him. For this, Vice Admiral seems to have had a fight with Mariajoy. Advertisement. I'm just a useless old man. Dylan, is it really worth it for me? Of course Zephyr heard about Mariajoy. Dylan stepped forward to signal Zephyr to go with him, and then said, there is nothing worthwhile, Zephyr, not everything in this world can be measured by value. And, I'm not here to invite you to retire, my recruit, still need your teaching. Zephyr laughed out loud after hearing this, recruit. I heard that there are some incredible guys in the recruit here. The two walked into the elevator side by side, and Dylan nodded noncommittally. Although they have justice in their hearts, everyone's justice is different, and they still need your teaching. Before that, treat your disease first. In and Bins next to him looked happy. Teacher Zephyr left a lot of pain when he was young, and at this age he is almost inseparable from medicine. The existence of Manchueli and her fruit ability are still one of the top secrets of G5. In addition to serving as the chief of the G505 combat unit, Luo also serves as the chief of the medical unit. Except for a few top officials, no one else in the G5 base knew about Manchueli's abilities. Also, Zephyr, after a while, I will find a way to find a devil fruit, which is specially for you. Would you like to eat it? Hearing Dylan's words, Ain and Binz's bodies froze. After that incident, Mr. Zephyr's attitude towards ability users. But Zephyr's answer surprised them. Huh. Dylan, you really underestimate the old man's heart. Since I chose you, I will trust you unconditionally. Dylan laughed. It's really exciting, Mr. Zephyr. On the other side of G5, CP0 office. Sleeping Ancient Town. This is the latest request from Dylan, the highest level request. CP0 searched the information but could not find this place called Sleeping Ancient Town. What is there on Earth is worth the man's attention. After Wanokuni missed a few phantom beast fruits before, although Dylan sneered at him for a while, CP0 obviously felt that he didn't really care much. But this time, the deadline he gave was that the place must be found within 1.5 years. If you can't find it, the cooperation is terminated. What on earth is there? CP0 smashed the data in his hand and then thumped the table. Go to Mariajoy. Go to the headquarters. Check the archived information, and find this place as soon as possible. On a certain island in the depths of the New World. Kuzan leans against a rock, holding a New Day's newspaper. Former Marine Chief Instructor, Black Arm, Zephyr transferred to G5 branch. Kuzan stared at Zephyr's expression standing in front of the G5 branch, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Teacher Zephyr, you went to a wonderful place. Then Kuzan stood up, picked up his small backpack, and looked towards the distant sea. Dylan, thank you so much. At least, Mr. Zephyr didn't go that far. In return, I will complete the task you gave me first. Thief, ha 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 ha. What's the matter, Kuzan? Have you figured it out yet? Not yet, but let your people find out the whereabouts of Moria and Absalom. Chapter 83 Disadvantage. New Green Bit. The circular council hall was full of people. This is the first meeting of government officials. Most are from East Blue, and a few are recruited from all over the world. Although CP0 and other organizations racked their brains to find out the details of these people, without exception, they all came back empty-handed. These people are all guys with clean family backgrounds and resumes, and even their family members and friends are all people with no problems. Of course, we can't say that completely. For example, quite a few people in it are related to Dylan. Especially those countries in East Blue, most of which were once favored or protected by Dylan. In the previous World Summit, when Dylan was sued by the Kingdom of Flowers and Alabasta, they tried their best to defend Dylan and listed his various achievements in East Blue. And these people came to work in New Greenbit, although they had the meaning of nepotism and power alone, but they couldn't find any problems in terms of law. After all, it was authorized by the Greenbit royal family. And Dylan himself has not accepted any position in the country. CP0 looked at the information in his hand, and then threw it aside. This is not our job. How many times have I said that it is not our task to investigate him? If you are still wasting time on him. Although they were still wearing masks, the subordinates clearly felt the anger of the chief. Who in the world doesn't know that guy is literally the king of Grimbits? But so what? They have done impeccable legally, and even brought a powerful and vast country to the world government. Greenbit Kingdom. According to inside information, their seats at the next World Summit are already quite high. Wealth, fame, power. The guy himself is already one of the near top-notch people in the world. Sometimes CP0 himself would suspect that if it wasn't for the Dark Dragon S2 wild style of acting, he would even suspect that this guy himself was a pawn that 5 elders put in the lower realm. And 5 elders' attitude towards him. CP0 held his breath at the thought, even though 5 elders was a bit displeased with his unauthorized erasure of Edward Weeble. But then Dylan seemed to come up with a plan that made them more happy. The matter was left alone, and even the proposal to refactor 7 Warlords of the Sea was shelved. What a terrifying power. He has worked in the CP organization for many years, of course he knows the style of 5 elders. And this man, since the Tom case, seems to have been able to grasp the psychological activities of the 5 elders. Although sometimes they do some outrageous things, they can always be resolved invisible at the last moment. Call. After years of training by the CP organization, his heart was already very hard, but in the past few years, after he was ordered to cooperate with the Dark Dragon, his mentality became more and more strange. Look at a location on the map. The eyes under the CP0 mask are slightly closed. Did you really do it? King of Grimbit. Well, although World Economic News didn't say it explicitly, there are obvious metaphors in this regard. Will this be? Nuo Chigao looked worried. Although the facts are true, if the World Economic News publicizes like this, I'm afraid it will damage the reputation of the eldest brother. Dylan shook his head, then pressed a button on his desk. A CP member quickly came to his office. Find Morgans and let him come to see me. If he doesn't come, I'll send someone to cook him into honey-roasted wings. CP0 lowered his head and was silent for a while. Morgan's is the dark world. Before he could finish speaking, Dylan raised his head and interrupted him. Isn't Queen of the Pleasure District Stussy one of yours? You can't do this well. Get lousy out tomorrow. CP0 shuddered. Advertisement. Queen of the Pleasure District Stussy. It is CP0. He doesn't know about this kind of thing. Just when CP0 trembled and went out, he seemed to hear something even more extraordinary. Sometimes these wastes are really useless. It's not as simple as working with Linlin. Upon hearing this, CP0 at the door quickened his pace and ran towards the branch as if fleeing. This is not something he can hear. Who will give me a pair of ears that have never heard this sentence? Seeing CP0's fleeing figure, Nuo Chigao pursed his lips and smiled. This is a senior member of the CP organization that more than 99% of the people in the world fear. Outside, they are more disturbing than the plague. After all, where CP0 appears, it means that bad things will inevitably happen. Brother doesn't seem to care that Morgans describes you like this. Dylan took a sip of the special tea made for him by the Dong Tata tribe, then walked to the sofa next to him and sat down. Nuo Chigao accompanied him and sat opposite. Nuo Chigao, if my performance today is flawless, it will be fatal. Hearing this sentence, Nuo Chigao was slightly puzzled. Is it wrong to be noble? Dylan stretched out his finger and shook it. It is important to have a noble character, but at the same time as having great strength, you must have a certain kind of shortcoming, or weakness. The young Nuo Chigao didn't seem to understand the deep meaning of this, and could only look at Dylan quietly, waiting for him to give him an explanation. If a person possesses too much power, great charisma, and amazing wealth. If this person has no shortcomings in moral character, who do you think he would be? Nuo Chigao frowned and pondered for a while, then raised his head suspiciously. Then. That's right. Dylan smiled slightly. Then he is the king. Not the king of the kingdom, but the king of the world. Nuo Chigao was overjoyed at first, and then an uneasy expression appeared on his face. So I must have shortcomings, bloodthirsty, warlike, greedy for money, lustful, power-hungry, or other things. It must make people think that I am not an invulnerable person. In this way, others will have a looser view of me. Otherwise, our situation will become more and more dangerous. Fortunately, the current me, the reputation of being bloodthirsty and warlike has been widely known, but this is not enough. The more flaws I show, the more Mariajoy will like me. Just wait. Soon, there will be new news that they will pamper me even more and give Green Bit more power. Mariajoy, king of Grimbit, Morgans, why provoke him for no reason? 5 elders looked at the newspaper, and then asked CP0 who was standing by. What about Adams Dylan? He was very angry and asked us to inform Morgans to go to G5 to give him an explanation. 5 elders in the hat smiled after raising his hand and waving CP0 back. Are you angry from embarrassment? Greed for power. It turns out that he waited so long for today. Another blonde-haired 5 elders responded with crossed legs. It can be seen from the things about the kingdom of Chia and the capital of water that he does have a strong desire for power. According to CP's report, the army of the Chia kingdom has been completely controlled by him, and even the weapons are forged by his alloy workshop. Since he likes power, then give Greenbit more power, which can be regarded as a kind of comfort to him. In the future, let him be the real king of Greenbit. Chapter 84: The Emerald Form of the Empire. 1 month after the interdiction, merchant ships all over the world are starting to head towards the G5 branch. Head towards New Greenbit. According to the latest news from World Economic News, Greenbit will expand foreign trade. In addition to their royal family, unique, ultra-high-yield grain and seeds, they have also received exclusive cooperation and authorization from G5. Selling the mysterious G5 alloy to the outside world. That's an alloy formerly only available to Mariajoy and Marine. Even if there is a kingdom that can be bought, it cannot be bought with money alone. You need the world's top kingdom, or a kingdom that has friendship with the Dark Dragon Vice Admiral. It is rumored that even the Emperor of the Dark World, Joker, would have to pay an unimaginable price if he wanted to buy alloys from him. If you have such an alloy, you can forge even more powerful weapons. I heard that the sale of alloys is limited and sold by auction. Hurry up, we must get the first batch of alloys. Then we can defeat the rebel army. The rebel army seems to have sent people there too. Speed up, allocation and more funds. In addition to alloys, green bits, grain, and seeds are also one of the goals of many people. People may not need to fight, but they definitely need to eat. Although that mysterious grain is still unknown, no one doubts its authenticity. After all, those news came from the World Economic News, and all of this must have been approved by that man. According to gossip, big news, Morgans had been in and out of G5 not long ago, but then left with a bruised nose and a swollen face. The strange thing is that Morgans, one of the emperors of the Dark World, did not continue to insinuate that man afterwards, but wholeheartedly advertised for him. In addition to being a good marine, this man seems to have a lot of kinks. Possessing massive wealth but still obsessed with wealth, possessing power far beyond the Marine Vice Admiral, but still not satisfied, and blatantly controlling a kingdom. The obliteration of Whitebeard too, who has been designated as 7 Warlords of the Sea, by default, shows his arrogance in character. And the Hill of Heads to the west of Grimboot is a testament to his warlike and bloodthirsty nature. The whole world breathed a sigh of relief in the face of a man with so many flaws. After all, you can find a way to please him. It's getting worse and worse, brother. Nuo Chigao couldn't help smiling while making tea for Dylan. Dylan raised his feet and said indifferently, "Fame, if there is too much, it will become a burden. Now, if I do anything out of the ordinary, the whole world will only say, he really did it's such a guy, so that's fine." Nuo Chigao shook his head. Although Dylan had explained it to her before, he still couldn't understand the deep meaning. Wouldn't it be nice to be a big hero that everyone admires? By the way, that Pika guy isn't lazy, is he? Nuo Chigao walked to the window and looked into the distance. In the north of Grinbit, the mountains were constantly rising and falling. Nuo Chigao couldn't help laughing. It seems not. Advertisement. After the news of the alloy and grain auction spread, Dylan borrowed Pika from Doflamingo. Auction. Of course the auction will be in the auction room. In addition to the auction hall, of course there are supporting hotels, restaurants, and small shops, and there is also a street of cultural tourism. How long will it take to repair it by relying on ordinary people to move bricks? G5 earn money, G5 spend, want to leave before the money is spent. What do you sleep on the boat? Sorry, you are not eligible to participate in the auction without hotel check-in registration, and you are not allowed to bring your own drinks and dry food. When Dylan appeared in Res Rosa, other cadres were a little panicked, but Pika's eyes showed deep fear and despair. I am the top cadre of the dignified Don Quixote Pirates, Spade. Is it just for you to do this job? Give no rest. Balchaco Islands. Alex took Dylan all the way to their capital. Guide, Ephraim looked at Dylan after listening to Alex's statement. The world has indeed changed a lot, but I didn't expect that the current pirates have become so rampant. Dylan asked while digging the fire with a stick. I heard that you don't have a royal family here. Ephraim nodded. Yes, we did not have a royal family more than 1,000 years ago, because a person's wisdom is limited, and it is impossible for a person to remain sane forever. Most importantly, if the ruler is determined by bloodline, there is no way to guarantee whether the ruler has other necessary abilities besides bloodline. It seems that there is indeed some reason for you to be incompatible with the other two parties back then, but Dylan changed the subject. The kingdom I lead now is still based on bloodline. Isn't this contrary to the concept you uphold? Ephraim looked at Dylan strangely, but didn't Alex say that the ruling system is still implemented in the form of parliament? Dylan picked up a wooden stick and held it in his hand. This is for outsiders to see. In fact, the decision-making events of this kingdom are still my dictatorship. For now, there is no problem. Ephraim knew that this was a conversation between them, and it was also a prerequisite for their cooperation to start. Oh, doesn't this abandon the jurisprudence? Ephraim turned the crutch in his hand. The basis of jurisprudence comes from the stability of society. In a chaotic world or society, there is no way to talk about jurisprudence. And the current world is in a moment of extreme chaos. Kind of time. Ephraim turned to look at Dylan. Someone needs to stand up first, lead people out of chaos, and rebuild order. Jurisprudence is based on basic order. What if I become this person, but I want to pass on the throne from generation to generation like the 20 kings? A smile appeared on Ephraim's face. But you are not, at least not now. Reason. It's very simple. Ephraim looked at the starlight in the sky, as if recalling some distant past. It is said that you still have no children, and your greed for power and hunger for wealth should be a kind of appearance. Then, I guess you should be looking for other things. As for what it is, I have no way of knowing, but it should not be something like king of the world. Dylan stood up and scanned the surrounding soldiers. Robust, disciplined, and all good players. Alex. Yes, choose 500 people and take them out. From today onwards, you are the commander of the G508 unit. Dylan looked at the smiling Ephraim. Others are staying put for now, waiting for the last day to come. The starlight shines on the earth, and the long beard on Ephraim's chest shines brightly. It should be soon. Chapter 85 The Disappeared Shiryu. Shiryu. No reply. Nuo Chi took out a life card and put it on the table. The small life card neither shrank nor burned, but showed a very strange state. It was shaking wildly. Yes, Mr. Shiryu's phone bug is completely unreachable. It's not that there is no answer, it should be that the phone bug is dead or damaged. Hearing Nuo Chigao's words, Dylan was a little puzzled. The surrounding area should have no particularly strong opponents. Of course, this is on the surface, and it is not clear whether there are Rock's remnants and Roger's crew in the dark. Where's Tahir? What did he say? The principle of the life card is not clear to Dylan, nor does he know what this abnormal shaking means. Mr. Tahir said that this means that his vitality is extremely unstable. This is not falling or rising, but falling into an uncontrollable state. Although the life card was still moving in a certain direction, it was very chaotic. This thing, it doesn't seem to be so omnipotent. Where is the direction in which Unit 04 is sailing? Nuo Chigao took out a map and marked the route. According to the plan, it's on this line. Dylan picked up the life card and compared it. Fortunately, the general direction is correct. After picking up Shira from the table, Dylan tightened his cloak. I'll go and have a look, don't disturb other people. The endless sea was surrounded by mist, and the life card in Dylan's hand trembled more and more frequently and violently. What kind of madness is this? Half a month ago, Shiryu, who couldn't bear the loneliness, asked to sail again. Dylan didn't stop him either. After all, when he took him away, the promise was to satisfy his desire to kill. Although the bloodthirsty desire has not changed, Shiryu has kept Dylan's bottom line all these years. Do not attack anyone other than pirates unless attacked or ordered by Dylan. I actually lost to that guy Tom last time. It's really hateful. Standing at the bow of the ship, Shiryu, who has completed a round of hunting, is still brooding over the gamble made by the various combat units in the previous cleansing operation. This time the hunt went a little farther and came to an area that had not been touched before. There are no other pirates in the range of G5 for a long time. And the clouds and mist in this sea area also made Shiryu feel very irritable. Let's have a little more pirates, it's not enough. In the thick fog at the bow, Shiryu exudes a thick black fog, which echoes with the surrounding clouds. The fangs in his mouth gleamed coldly in the clouds, and curved horns grew from both sides of his hat. Hurry up, someone, kill me. On the rear deck, the rogue Marines of G5 also looked strange. Some people were eating like crazy, and some people seemed to be very angry with red eyes. Some people giggled with saliva dripping from the corners of their mouths. But most people haven't lost their minds yet, because the murderous intent permeating the bow ahead is suppressing the weird thoughts in their hearts. Island. The lookout on the mast held the binoculars tightly, and seemed to be restraining some emotions. Sir, there are small islands on the flanks. Standing at the bow of the boat, Shiryu held Thunderstorm tightly, his body began to tremble slightly. There. After gritting his teeth, Shiryu seemed to be trying to restrain his emotions. Is there anyone? No. Has a pirate flag. The lookout tried to look in that direction, but the thick fog obscured his vision. I can only see that there is indeed a flag, but I can't see it clearly. Turn the rudder. Go and have a look. Shiryu took a deep breath trying to endure the tyrannical emotion in his heart. I wish there was someone there to kill. As the warship sailed, the fog became thicker, and the black fog on Shiryu's body almost condensed into a liquid and began to flow. The weird lines on his skin also began to flicker on and off. Gah, corpse. There are corpses on the pier, maybe pirates did it. Shiryu's nostrils moved, and there was indeed a faint smell of blood in the air, both new and old. As the people of the G504 unit stepped onto the pier, a gust of sea breeze blew by. Okay. Although the muscles all over his body were tense, Shiryu still maintained his rationality. The wind is weird. Woo. There was a dull cracking sound. Advertisement. A marine with red eyes charged behind Shiryu with a weapon in his hand. Are you looking for death? Are you? The moment Shiryu turned around, his entire face changed into a hideous ashura. Ha ha. It seems that they were overwhelmed by Shiryu's aura, or Shiryu impressed them too much. In an instant, the marine showed a frightened look. Sir. I don't know. Shiryu, who completely transformed into anthropoid, ashura, looked around. All marines are in some sort of madness. Click. Shiryu picked up Thunderstorm's scabbard and shuttled through the crowd. Boom, boom, boom. A series of falling sounds sounded. After all the surrounding marines were knocked out by him, the red light in Shiryu's eyes was already like a ghost. He turned around and looked towards the town in the distance. UB**************. D. I hope you have some strength. There were dead bodies lying on both sides of the road, in flower beds, in fountains and pools. They were all the corpses of civilians, and their death conditions were horrific. It's not the kind of panic or despair when being killed by pirates. It's another weird situation. Their faces are full of some kind of satisfaction, or some kind of madness. Tread. Tap. A sound of footsteps sounded from the mist. It's Marine. Kill him. Pirates wearing hooded blindfolds sounded from all directions, charging towards Shiryu with weapons in hand. A grin appeared on Shiryu's hideous face. Chi 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 chi. The pirates who surrounded them turned into pieces of meat without even taking a breath. Not enough. There were more and more whistling sounds around, and pirates reappeared like a tide, in houses, at street corners, and above trees. Kill him. Click. When Thunderstorm turned the handle of the knife, Shiryu exhaled a puff of black mist. Very good. Kill him. Kill him. Not enough. Not enough. Not enough. Shiryu, who was shuttling through the crowd, had completely liberated his desire to kill. Countless pirates were cut into pieces by him before they could howl. But immediately more pirates came from all directions to make up for it. Boom. A huge circular slash swung from Shiryu's body, and the surrounding trees, houses, and the entire town were silent for a while. Then he was chopped off at the waist. Where is the stronger guy? Then let me meet you, Ra and Shiryu. We didn't enjoy our fight last time. Wearing a top hat and a ripper shirt, foil, Vista stepped out of the fog. It's you. Shiryu's body was already covered with the blood and minced meat of the pirates. The moment he saw Vista, Shiryu jumped in front of him and slashed at him. Very good. A powerful swordsman is exactly the opponent I expected. Vista bounced into the sky with Shiryu's power, and then a burst of petals fell down. Dance of roses. Yellow spring. The falling petals were shattered by the slashes gushing from the ground. Dance of tulips. The collision between flower petals and spring water was not over yet. A swirling slash hit Shiryu's body again. Sticks. As foil sword, Vista fell to the ground, Shiryu's expression became more and more crazy. It seems that you have improved a lot in the past few years. Ra and Shiryu, are you ready to challenge me? In the darkness, a pair of eagle-like eyes lit up.